Hello, fellow homebrewers. JP here, and I want to introduce to you the brand new Brew-Built X1 Conical Series available at More Beer. More Beer sells the highest standard in homebrewing equipment, and the Brew-Built Conicals are just that. They're made from mirror-polished 304 stainless steel, and they come with loads of features that you and I have been looking for. They have a full 2-inch bottom dump valve, which will eliminate your clogging issues, while the sturdy base includes 4 reinforced legs, just like those big Pro tanks do. More Beer also carries the Brew-Built line of options and add-ons like casters, pressure kits, and even external glycol chillers. So you can find out more about the new Brew-Built X1 Conical Unitanks by going over to morebeer.com for detailed videos on the entire line of Brew-Built Conicals. You can trust Brew-Built with your next fermentation, and you can trust More Beer to find the right conical for you. Brew-Built at morebeer.com.
Today's Sunday session is brought to you thanks to the fine folks at More Beer. Visit them right now at morebeer.com.
Feels like work. Shooting the shit for 2 hours, drinking beer and talking beer. What a wonderful experience.
Can we not have the barf bucket near my mixing board?
I think everybody could read the book.
I knew you were going to use this book as an excuse to quit doing this show.
Mrs. Bub, if you want, I can mail you the Bub Timer.
Yeah, Newcastle, especially in the can. Have you ever had it in the can?
No, I have not had it in the can.
Notice I closed my eyes and I concentrated really hard.
Now, live from the Brewing Network studios in Northern California, this is the radio program for home brewers, craft brewers, beer lovers, and beer geeks. It's your only source for live beer radio that brings expert brewers together with, well, expert drinkers. This is the radio program with a head on it. This is The Session.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Session. My name's Justin Crosley. I'll be your host today, and probably next week, and not the week after that, because I think we're off.
Oh, nice.
But I'm here now.
Well, 2 shows is a good run.
That's what I feel like. I think 3, technically.
3 shows in how many weeks?
Yeah.
Like 6.
7.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Live your best life, man.
I'm trying.
Let's go.
I'm trying. Yeah, we've had a busy couple weeks here, actually. We did our Oktoberfest. Was that last weekend? I can't remember. I think it was last weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. A very successful first-year event, our first Oktoberfest here in Concord.
Nice.
So successful. It was a 2-day event, and so successful on Friday that we had to order more beer Saturday morning.
Oh.
Yeah, we would have run out. I think we ended up going through just over 60 kegs.
That's a lot of beer.
Wow. A lot of beer.
Oh, that is a lot.
Yeah.
I thought lagers weren't popular.
Well, they were. And, people didn't... I only got a couple of requests. I wasn't pouring beer the whole time, but whatever shifts I was doing, only a couple people, were disappointed that there was no IPA. I did find some people disappointed that there weren't enough straight Oktoberfest beers.
Oh.
Okay.
And, my thinking was, put a couple Oktoberfest on, but then vary a bunch of different German lager styles.
Sure.
But no, it turns out people would have been happy if I had 6 different Oktoberfest to choose from. Those were the beers that went first, and that's what people wanted.
I mean, are there that many breweries making good Oktoberfests in the area?
Well, there certainly are some. Our favorite one, and it's one of the beers I had to order more of, came from Danville Brewing Company.
Oh, nice.
What a great beer Matt made down there. So if you ever get a chance to go into Danville Brewing, I highly recommend it. He makes good beer. And yeah, that was definitely one that went quickly. Then we had a Sam Adams Oktoberfest. Had to order more of that on day 2. That went really quick. And we had a special fest beer from Gordon Biersch only on Friday night that he delivered in a barrel. Mm-hmm. And we did like the keg tapping ceremony with
that
Dan.
was my favorite. The cask conditioned Märzen.
Yeah.
From Gordon Biersch.
Yeah, how can it not be everyone's favorite?
That's a great beer anyway.
How was the I want to call it a Doppelbock, but it wasn't. A Dunkelweiss?
People loved it.
Okay, good.
It was also the first beer to sell out.
Hell yeah.
So I think I ended up ordering 4 more kegs of just that beer for Saturday that we went through. That was by Epidemic Ales, a little collaboration that we did between us and Visit Concord and Epidemic.
Yeah.
And they also sent their Schwartz beer, which did really well. The keg tapping ceremony was interesting because, since it's like they do at Oktoberfest, it's kind of tapping the first keg. I needed to do it right at 6 o'clock. Sure. And I'm standing up there with Dan Gordon and the mayor, and I'm looking out at the park, and there's barely anybody there. And I'm kind of shitting my pants. I'm like, oh, failed event.
Yeah.
But an hour later, we were mobbed for the rest of the night.
Nice.
So it was just during. But I can't push back the keg tapping ceremony.
Right. Yeah.
So I feel like if we do the event next year, which it's looking like we'll have to do. I mean, we'll do. I still have to go stand there with a fairly dead crowd at 6 o'clock.
Well, yeah, but I feel like those are just for like purely ceremonial purposes anyway, because only a few people will go, and it's just good for photos.
Right,
it's just a photo op, really. So don't worry about the crowd. If the crowd wants to watch the photo op, then that's fine. But it's really just advertising.
You're
marketing.
right, but you know me, I thrive off of everybody looking at me.
Yeah.
So it's
you should be more handsome.
A little disappointing.
Well, if everybody showed up an hour late this year, tell everybody it starts at 5 next year.
Yeah, that's
that way
a good
at
idea.
6 when you have the tapping, they're there.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't think of that. So that was a lot of fun anyway, doing that. It did end up filling up, and actually, the only other complaint we got really good feedback because I had done some research on the other Oktoberfests in the area, and the main complaints were long lines for beer.
Oh, sure.
And so Bevo and I focused really hard on how to fix that problem because I knew no matter what we do, ours wasn't going to be extremely unique from other Oktoberfests. The two things I felt were going to differentiate us were the quality of beer because we were all local craft beer, and then trying to do no lines. And you know what? I don't think anybody waited longer than like 3 minutes for a beer.
That's great.
And that was like at our busiest time. We had 12 lines going. Note to you festival organizers out there. People just, I think, sometimes focus on the wrong things when they're doing a fest. And it's important to focus on the content of the festival. I think that's very important. But what good is the content if people don't have a good user experience, right?
Right. Well, also, that's not the only thing to focus on. I think you're right. They do focus on, what kind of band? We got a good band and some good food, and then they stop there.
Yeah, right.
You got to figure out how to get people having a good time.
How to
no one wants to
execute
wait
that.
in line. Yeah,
exactly. And I would be upset if it's one of the reasons I don't go to beer festivals is waiting in line for beer like that. So we solved that problem. We also had great content, great entertainment. We had on Saturday afternoon we had a 28-piece German orchestra playing, and then of course the beer I really think spoke for itself. Mm-hmm. Actually. I do have to give a special kudos to Candy, Beardy's wife.
To the main stage, please. Candy.
And Beardy had helped too, but Candy designed our Oktoberfest tent. And people just loved it. It looked so cool and authentic. So she had come up with that, and then her and Beardy put it all together for us on the Friday.
Literally by themselves.
Yeah.
That was long.
We got to fix that problem. Well, we thought we'd have a lot of volunteers to help them.
Yeah.
And here's another word of advice. This one is for those of you who volunteer.
Yeah.
Show up.
Show up for your shift.
Oh, no. Did you have no shows?
Well, so first of all, Friday, a few volunteers. Actually, the Friday setup crew was a stellar crew, except apparently anybody we sent over to the beer tent to help Beardy, because Candy ended up saying, we'll just do it ourselves. I guess it was difficult to instruct.
Yeah, they were muscle, but I don't think they were brains.
Yeah. But they did a great job with the rest of the setup. And anyhow, because Saturday was so long, we had 2 shifts of volunteers to pour beer and sell tickets, and almost our entire second shift didn't show up. And my guess is they came, saw the fest, what a great time it was and was like, I'm just going to buy tickets instead. And that's really unfortunate because what happens is then you try to make it easy on volunteers for donating their time, and that they should only have about a 3 or 4 hour shift, and then they also get to go enjoy the fest. Well, our morning shift, the festival started at noon on Saturday. They ended up pouring all the way until 6 p.m. and they were so generous to me. I saw them standing there well after the second shift was supposed to show up, feeling terrible, saying, guys, I'll figure it out. I don't know what I'll do, but you can leave if you want. And they just said, what? No, what would you do? We have to pour beer. There's a lot of people here, and so they stuck around. There was a pregnant woman who worked.
Oh my gosh! Right,
pouring beer from noon until about 4:30. When I finally went to her, and I
was she in labor?
Didn't you make her quit?
Horrible. Yeah, and I'm like, do you need a break? You need to go sit. And she's like, well, can I? There's nobody here. And I just said, I will figure this out. You have to leave.
Someone's good wife.
And she wasn't like, is she fat or is she pregnant? She was like very, very pregnant.
Yeah. So I'm just saying to those of you who do volunteer for events, and most of you are just wonderful, but you don't just affect the organizer, you affect your other volunteers when you sign up for something and you don't show up, and without even a notice, I'm sick or anything.
Yeah.
So
cough, wheeze.
Yeah. So just another word of advice out there, don't sign up to volunteer. It's actually really important. We can't run the fest without volunteers, and they're so great for that. But it kind of affects everybody if you don't.
Well, here's an idea, and it's radical. So just, go with me. But you might try to go look like elsewhere for volunteers, like places that won't drink the beer, like AA meetings.
Right,
I think if you go to an AA meeting and you pitch, like, hey, guys, if you want to come help out, you'll be second shift.
Right.
There's no fear of them not showing up and going drinking or whatever. And
there's only the fear of them relapsing.
Right, exactly. Have you heard of relapses?
Yeah, but that's not our fault.
It's not my problem.
Yeah, that's their problem. And it would be beneficial for them, too, to kind of like, I can do this.
Yeah. I hear what he's saying.
Right, and there'd be police officers waiting to arrest them for being drunk in public right there.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know what to tell you.
Thinking outside the box. Yeah. But overall, just a great success. So thanks to everybody for coming out for that, for a first-year event. I couldn't be happier. Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say. The one thing, the other complaint I got publicly was somebody was upset that our, quote, local brewer who did the keg tapping, Dan Gordon, wasn't local. Because his brewery's in San Jose.
Not local enough.
Not and he was just a little snarky, like, just my opinion, but I'm really disappointed that your local brewer wasn't. But then the entire thing was I guess lost on that individual. That it's not. I considered Gordon Biersch a local brewery. It's local enough, but not just that. Dan Gordon actually has a strong tie to German beers. Not only because that's what he produces, but because he went to school in Germany. He speaks German. He knows more about the culture. He actually has the authentic barrels to come do a tapping.
He likes pee videos.
Yeah.
He's into it.
I mean, it was the obvious choice. Yeah. And then, of course, he's a friend of ours. Yeah. So whatever.
And no one else would come.
Yeah.
No one else made it.
But none of that stuff's local. Germany's not local. Weinstefan's not local.
Yeah, and I mean, I would be hard to not just go, well, how far away is what is local?
Right.
San Ramon? Where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
For me, local's the Bay Area. That's fucking Oakley to San Jose, dude. That's a huge swath to cut. So
I agree.
It's only been Oakley for the last 6 months,
something like that.
However long you've lived there.
And when it comes to certainly that area can be defined by what fresh beer means too. Mm-hmm. In other words, it doesn't take more than an hour to get beer delivered from anywhere in the Bay Area. Hour and a half, right?
Yeah.
Well, beer doesn't really go bad in an hour and a half.
It's true.
So I feel like there's that argument.
Yeah, it's absolutely local.
Yeah.
They're fine.
So
even Firestone Walker is
Sacramento beer
local enough for when you're talking a commodity.
Right.
I think it definitely goes beyond your residential locations. Well, I live in the Bay Area, so I want only Bay Area. Just relax.
Yeah.
Central Coast is fine. Even L.A., maybe not.
Yeah. Well, and so if those are the only two complaints I received, not enough official Oktoberfest beers, and that Dan Gordon wasn't local enough, I'll take it for a first-year event.
No, that's pretty good.
Man.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to extend this local conversation into today's show. We're going to be speaking with Plan Beer Farm Brewery from Poughkeepsie, New York, and they only make beer with local New York ingredients. So all of the grain, all of the hops, even their yeast is from the state of New York.
Fuck you, New Jersey.
Yeah, so stick around for that. I think it's going to be a great interview to find out, for example, how does he get his yeast? Yeah,
and I like talking to people like this who are trying to be super local like that, because it also puts constraints on what they can use.
Right.
And then how to formulate a recipe and how to produce a product around these limitations that you've set for yourself because you want to, not because you have to.
Yeah, I agree. Cool. I think that's going to be a good discussion to find out what Plan B Brewery does. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at More Beer. You should go to morebeer.com and check them out. And they want to change your malt game with Viking Malt. Hailing from Northern Europe, Viking Malt is a family-owned malt house since 1883, and it's the largest specialty malt producer in the world. Their base malts are malted from null-lox varietals that don't contain the enzyme lipoxygenase, thank you, which leads to trans-2 non-enol in beer, which is responsible. What is it, Beardy?
Trans-2 what?
Non-enol?
Non-enol?
Non-enol.
No anal.
Non-anal?
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
You definitely could have given me a heads up on this one. Which is responsible for those stale cardboard flavors. So head over to morebeer.com. They know more about it than I do, clearly. And brew ingredients from the future at morebeer.com.
I'm going to change that. I can take out the big words.
Just
like future.
I mean,
I forgot.
I'd like to say that now I know, but you realize we all know that next week is an entirely new. Like I was born yesterday. Every time.
Like Olin sent me that, and he goes, "That might be too geeky for everybody." It's like, no, I think that's perfect. Everyone wants to hear it. And
then you can pronounce it.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it would be cool, but I can take it out.
You can leave it in. Just you got to give me a heads up that I know that there are things.
Well, you started reading it. That's why I was laughing. I was like, "Oh shit, this is going to go one way or another." You did great, though.
Thank you.
Consider this your heads up for next week.
Yeah.
Right.
You'll know you don't know ahead of time.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I won't. We're going to have this exact same conversation next week.
Well,
we all know it.
Hopefully, all malt will have trans-2 non-enol taken out of it, so there will be no more stale cardboard flavors in beers, and you won't have to even mention it. It's just a known factor.
All right, so
soon
make my job better. That's why these things should happen.
Yeah.
All right, let's do some announcements, and our announcements are brought to you today by Drake's Brewing Company, who is opening their newest location in Sacramento called The Barn, which is a 2-acre facility that features a craft beer bar, of course. I think they've got 20 different taps on there. Over 25 different taps. They have a specialty cocktail bar. They've got a pizza place. I think they have 3 different stages that they're going to have different music playing on.
Jeez, at the same time, I hope.
Maybe. And it's all along the Sacramento River. So it's their opening week kicks off this week. It actually starts Wednesday, October 24th, and goes through to it goes through to Sunday the 28th, their grand opening week. So go check it out. I'm excited to go see that place. That
building looks
incredible.
So cool.
Yeah. So what a cool thing.
I was over there last week for their ribbon cutting.
Oh, you did? Yeah. Is it as beautiful?
It's really nice.
Okay.
It's really nice. It's got this really strange, award-winning architectural structure thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks nothing like a farm.
Yeah. I think it's some crazy Dutch guy.
And that's kind of what they started with, and then so they added like this another building on that's sort of hidden.
Okay.
It's their tap room, and then they expanded like into this park-like setting. It's really nice.
Wow.
be a great place to go on the weekend with the family and friends, and it looks really good.
Well, head over to drinkdrakes.com, and you'll see it right there on their homepage. You can click around for some photos and more information about the barn. Okay, hey, don't forget we got a lot of new shows going on over here. We've got our new Spanish-speaking podcast, Entre Cervezas, is up and running. And if you're a professional brewer, you might want to check out our professional craft beer marketing program called Shine Runner Craft Marketing. It's all available in iTunes and on thebrewingnetwork.com, of course. Okay, and here's a save the date for you. Usually don't do it this far in advance, but I'm trying to get things done around here. Saturday, March 30th, 2019, will be our 10th annual Spring Brews Festival.
Wow, really?
10 years we've been doing that.
Wow.
And it sells out every year now, so you're going to want to get your tickets early. Tickets won't be going on sale until January, but just save the date, Saturday, March 30th, 2019, and another good Spring Brews Festival is on its way.
That's right. Now there's no excuse to not travel out here.
Yeah, I'm
book
giving
hotel rooms. Let's go already.
Unless you're going to the Heads and Tails Whiskey Fest on March 30th, 2019.
Yeah, from noon to 4.
Right.
Yeah.
In Toto Santos.
In Toto Santos
Here in
parking
Concord.
garage.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's not local enough for me.
Yeah, there's no bourbon made here.
No.
All
but we
right.
will have ice.
Yes. Local ice.
Local. All right, you can support the Brewing Network by doing your Amazon shopping. It's just a great way to help us out. You just click on the Amazon links on our homepage. You can do this both in the U.S. and the U.K. There's links for that. And when you do so, you just shop as normal, but you help out the Brewing Network, and it's a great way to support us. Thank you for those of you that do. If you want to subscribe and join the BN Army, do so by clicking the donate button. And for as little as $2 a month, you're entered to win a gift certificate in the More Beer monthly donation giveaway, where we give away $100 to spend at More Beer, and we do that each and every month. Make sure that your address, your email address, is up to date in PayPal so that we can notify you if you win. All right, you can get updates over on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and different photos and things that we're doing. Send feedback to feedback@thebrewingnetwork.com, and send your show ideas over to bevo@thebrewingnetwork.com. That's BEEVO at thebrewingnetwork.com. And yeah, always looking for interesting breweries or homebrew topics or any idea that you'd like to see covered here on the session. All right, do we have a Twitter game today?
We do.
Great. Twitter game is brought to you today by Neshaminy Creek Brewing. They've been brewing award-winning beers in Croydon, Pennsylvania since 2012. Proud winners of 4 Philly Beer Scene Magazine Awards for Brewer of the Year and 3 for Brewery of the Year. 2-time GABF Vienna-style lager winner. And what else? They got a big-ass tap room with 24 beers on tap, 18 of which are rotating seasonal limited beers. A variety of beer styles from hoppy AA IPAs to sessionable and poundable lagers, even oak-fermented saisons and sour beers. So if you can't make it out to Croydon, hit up their second location in Jenkintown called the Borough Brew House, which features a full menu and 22 beers on tap, including guest taps from local breweries, meaderies, as well as Pennsylvania cider. Go to NeshaminyCreekBrewing.com. All right, what's our Twitter game?
Well, I don't know if you know this, Justin, but there is an epidemic, I guess, in the craft beer world for breweries stealing IP. Existing, whatever.
IP. Intellectual property.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Local breweries have done it. A lot of other regional breweries are continuing to do it. I just saw one today where someone took the faces of the Beastie Boys and put it on their IPA and called it Check Your Head IPA.
Okay. Aren't they all dead now anyway?
Most of them are. I think the last one is out fighting bears somewhere.
Okay, so he'll be dead soon.
There's even a local brewery who stole the artwork from a children's book and put it on one of their singular release IPAs.
Wow.
Probably a lot of sludge in the bottom of that one, too. So my question is, with so many craft beer breweries stealing artwork for their labels, whose logo should we steal?
Okay.
We don't steal shit from anybody.
We try not to.
We try not to. So
when we do, we don't get caught.
What we do is we steal hearts.
All day, every day.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So whose logo should we steal? We need a new logo. Let's go.
Okay. Great Twitter game, JP.
Thanks, Justin. I appreciate that, and I can feel the sincerity.
All right. Let's do some feedback. Feedback's brought to you by the Beer Law Center. You can go to beerlawcenter.com and check it out. They can help you protect your intellectual property. property.
Right.
And they can help you start your brewery by filing paperwork, especially if you're in North Carolina. Go to beerlawcenter.com. Only one little email in the feedback for us today.
Yeah.
Rob from Pennsylvania writes in, greetings, brewcasters. The Session is the best show on the network, even when JP is in charge.
Oh, shit.
Shut up, Beardy, he says. I also think The Session is the best show on the network. Forget that sour hour bullshit.
Is that still a show?
I think it's still a show.
It's only a show because the Rare Barrel retweets it. That's all. No one would know about it.
Right. He
Dr.
says,
Homebrew.
however, I've been going through withdrawal because I haven't seen any new shows posted in a while. I live on the East Coast and need to get out the door early for work, so I can never listen live. I rely on the podcast. So what's up? Did Justin win the death pool and nobody could figure out his passwords to post new shows? Just wondering because I'm a session junkie and looking for his fix. That's sincerely Rob from Pennsylvania. I was late on posting our last show, which was last show we did was 2 weeks ago. I do tend to get it up the night that we do the show, but JP and Beardy had to do some recording that night, and then I just got busy with Oktoberfest.
It's our fault.
So I messed up that most recent one. But other than that, they're posted pretty timely. The only time you should see a gap is when we have an off week, which happens once a month.
He does bring up a situation that maybe we should plan for. Does someone else know the passwords?
Yeah, dude,
is
there a death document?
Right.
I'm pretty sure that
probably should be.
Given enough time, I could probably figure out your password to everything.
Yeah, it's probably true.
Biscuit. With the number 1 for the I.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
is the dollar sign.
At for the E.
Yeah.
This guy.
Elite speak. Yeah, like before my surgery, I outlined everything. I had all my passwords for all my bank shit, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm very anti-dying, and I think you're very pro-dying.
Right.
So I feel like maybe
I'm
very nihilistic about it.
I think I always just assume that the BN dies with me. I don't know what you guys are going to do.
We got to keep on.
As somebody else wants to go broke after I'm gone, I don't know what. Yeah,
this is all some of us have. I won't name any names.
Yeah, I understand that.
Us,
but some of us.
More importantly, though, I read an article about this years ago that you have to have a bro in your life who will delete your porn history for you.
Oh yeah,
who like knows that immediately upon your death needs to go to your house, open every electronic device you have, and remove any embarrassing behavior of any kind anywhere.
Yeah,
that to me seems more important than making sure the BN lives on.
Man, you just
don't do that right after you're done watching it?
I do, but I always feel that there's a chance, and I feel it's important to have a bro
like
who
mid-watch.
understands.
What have you done?
What if you're exactly bad enough? They're going to find me dead with my dick in my hand. I don't need them to see what I'm watching either.
I feel like I just use incognito mode in Chrome, and that way there's no history.
I see.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, because Google doesn't track what you do in incognito mode.
Well, they can track it all they want, but it's
at least
not
someone
saved
else
on your
can't
local
find
machine,
it.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, if I was to do that, but
Right.
I'm very unhealthy sexually.
What's
so
incognito mode? I don't even know what that is.
I'll show you later.
Okay.
While we look at porn together.
Yeah, on our Skype session. Right.
Tomorrow night or Wednesday?
Yeah. Okay. So, we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we're going to speak to Plan Beer Farm Brewery out of Poughkeepsie, New York. Evan Watson will be on the line with us, and we'll learn all about some real local beer. I better message that guy directly on Facebook that we're having a local conversation. All right, it's The Session. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Brewcasters on the Brewing Network.
First Amendment.
Watch out!
Do you like beer? They make beer.
Watch out!
Do you like friends and fun? They make friends and fun.
Watch out!
Do you still like to have a good time? The 21st Amendment.
Watch out!
The 21st Amendment in San Francisco, located at 563 2nd Street, 2 blocks from the building where baseball is seen and played. Try their beers in the pub or try them in the can, featuring
Monk's Blood.
Made with real monk.
Watch out!
So why not have the best time of your life? Go to the 21A and Sean O'Sullivan will personally greet you with a can of
Monk's Blood.
The 21st Amendment.
Watch out!
This advertisement is not in any way affiliated nor associated with the 21st Amendment Bar and Pub, nor its subsidiaries or affiliates. This telecast is not copywritten by the 21st Amendment for the private use of the Brewing Network. Any use of this telecast without Jamil Zainashev's consent is prohibited. Suck it, JP.
Do you know the 3 most important rules in brewing? Sanitation, sanitation, and sanitation. And no one does it better than 5-Star Chemicals. 5-Star knows sanitation. You can only sanitize clean equipment. And 5-Star knows how to clean, too. For craft brewers and home brewers, 5-Star has what you need to keep your fermenters, serving tanks, kegs, and draft lines sparkling and free of any beer-spoiling bacteria. PBW, caustic, acid cleaners, Star San, SanaClean, lubricants and defoamers, pH stabilizers, and more. 5-Star Chemicals has cleaning supplies, safety supplies, heat exchangers, pumps, hoses, and valves. And 5-Star is proud to offer eco-friendly products that exceed customer expectations. If you have a cleaning problem, you need the 5-Star solution. Visit 5starchemicals.com or call 800-782-7019. 800-782-7019 and get the 5-Star treatment today.
You're tuned into this session because life's too short to listen to crappy radio.
All right, welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. This segment is brought to you by craftbeer.com, dedicated to telling the stories behind America's small and independent breweries. Meet the men and women behind America's beer renaissance by visiting craftbeer.com. All right, and as promised, we should have Evan Watson, who's the owner and co-founder of Plan Beer Farm Brewery, with us. Evan, are you there?
I am here.
Hey, thanks so much for being with us. I heard you had a busy day today.
Oh, no, not really. Monday's our day off. I felt like that was, I heard the music coming on. I felt like that was the Monday Night Football thing.
Okay. Yeah. We stole that.
True.
Close
little
enough.
Talk box going on?
Yeah, that's a little ZZ Top we were playing at the break, but don't tell anybody.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. So Evan is from, as I said, Plan B, as in the insect, Plan Beer Farm Brewery, and it's out of Poughkeepsie, right?
Yes, sir. It's in Poughkeepsie, New York, in the mid Hudson Valley.
Got it.
The East Coast.
Okay. Folks, you can go to planbeerfarmbrewery.com if you want to learn more during this conversation or after, and check out how to get Plan B Farm Brewery. So when did you guys open? And then I'd like to learn about this concept that you have.
Well, I might be able to tackle both those questions.
Okay.
And the Monday Night Football theme. We opened in 2013 in Fishkill, New York, so a bit south of here, still in the Hudson Valley, not that far away, on a tiny little 1-acre property with the goal of making beers out of only ingredients sourced from a small radius, including microphora from that radius. And back then, it was like a 1-barrel brew house. And because I can only get malt from a single person who was malting out of a fish tank 3 hours away, and
wow!
And now it's grown pretty tremendously. What was the second part? Was there a second tackle I was supposed to make?
No, I think you started to cover it there.
That didn't make you rethink the local rule that you put in place, having to get grain just from a fish tank.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Is it just getting grain from one guy with a fish tank didn't make you rethink the only making local?
Well, I'm a stubborn man. I live a monastic lifestyle, and I'm very principled. So, it wasn't a big investment at 30 gallons at a shot. So at the beginning, it was more of a petri dish. It was just like, let's see if this is even possible, and it's turned out very possible.
Okay. So what sparked the idea to do your beer this way? Were you a farmer first, or a brewer first, who decided, hey, I really want to make just from local ingredients that either I can grow or somebody near me can grow?
I was a musician first. I came to New York as a musician in 2008 and had a record contract and toured the country. But all along, I was working part-time. At first, I worked for Guinness, teaching people to pour the perfect pour of Guinness when I'd get back to the city. And that was like a part-time gig. And then I worked for Captain Lawrence Brewing Company, which is a mid-sized regional brewery here on the East Coast. Part-time and then more full-time as I went along. Got more frustrated with the music industry, and got into deeper and deeper into beer. And as somebody that appreciated all the regionalities of this country that have seemed to be lost, it was in the concept of craft beer, as from Ken Grossman to Sam to Jim Cook to all home brewers, just recreating brown ales, amber ales, pale ales, just stealing styles and ingredients from other countries to see what it's like to actually create a beer from a singular location, which is like where any style comes from. And we don't have a lot of that, and it all begins with agriculture, I think.
Okay. So did you already own a place? Because my understanding is that some of these ingredients you're growing yourself on your own farm. Is that right?
Yeah, some things, mostly adjuncts. I mean, we're not growing our base malt. Our base malt's being grown about 30 miles from us. It's an organic 6-row variety that I have a farmer growing for me, who's actually not tilling. It's a no-till farm and a Rockefeller estate. So he's a fancy farmer that's doing it more conceptually. So I've gotten the benefit of that. He's done like TED Talks on carbon sequestration, but we're growing this kind of an older variety of 6-row barley. All the beers are made with that, and and then I use unmalted grains as well from his farm and stuff we grow. We grow heirloom corns and fruits and vegetables and spices and herbs and adjuncts on the farm.
Okay. Now, it was my understanding that 6-row is a little more, I don't know if the right word is complex or difficult to brew with. Most brewers use 2-row. What do you think about the difference there and how 6-row works for you?
Well, if the inception of your brewery is that you have to drive 3 hours to get malt out of a guy's fish tank, you kind of start working with whatever you can get.
Okay.
I think I've heard the brewer from Notch Brewing talk about the demonization of 6-row barley and corn in this country by the Craft Brewers Association in the 90s, and I learned from that. But just it was, I think, in the 90s it was to differentiate really macro beer from micro beer. 6-row barley is what grows much more naturally in this country, as does corn over wheat or rye, which rye is a fairly natural growing grain in this country. But corn obviously is our oldest adjunct, and 6-row it works a lot better than 2-row in most places in terms of growing. And I find little difference. I mean, the kernels are slightly smaller. The protein of this grain that's being grown without tilling or spraying or anything, for me, is less so than that of 2-row barley in the same area. So I don't know. A lot of it's myth, I think.
So you didn't have to make any major changes to your brewing process by switching to a 6-row?
No, but like this, what I do isn't very. I don't know. It's not very contained. It's not very repeatable, and every year is kind of a different adventure.
Okay.
So it's easy for me to kind of shuffle around as people that really rely on consistency.
Okay. And of course, grain now being probably aside from water, the largest ingredient you find in beer. There's obviously several others too. Are you growing hops yourself, or just sourcing those locally?
At our old farm, we grew a number of hop varieties. Here we have 1,000 rhizomes planted, but I really haven't harvested them much. It's like this project of this farm has been, it's just myself and my wife and our 4-year-old daughter, which is kind of a negative one person. So
right.
She's not pulling her weight.
It's like, yeah, and I don't have an assistant brewer, assistant farmer. It's a 10-barrel brew house. So I'm doing all the brewing, all the farming. And every year it's like, oh, we got to trellis those hops. And I'm like, the spring comes and they just grow up, and we're aging all those hops anyways for spontaneous beers.
Okay.
So hops in New York have gotten to really answer the question. I've had some growers that started about 5 years ago that have gotten to the point where everything's T90 pelletized, nitrogen purge, Mylar sealed bags, and really cool varieties now. We're getting some proprietary varieties in New York now. And it's actually a pretty impressive change from the beginning. A guy bringing me like a Ziploc bag full of brown hops at $20 a pound.
Right.
So now it's a pretty drastic change.
Okay. Are you doing all spontaneous beers?
No, actually, I'd say spontaneous beers probably account for like 10% of our brewing. The majority of the beer is with a mixed culture that I grow up from our beehives, from raw honey. We pull out our honey, extract honey twice a year in the spring and the fall. And in the spring, I'll pull comb and propolis, like parts of a whole frame, throw it into an Erlenmeyer flask with some low gravity wort, and just swirl it around on a stir plate until it starts fermenting, and then decant and build that culture up over the course of 4 or 5 decantions, and then eventually add it to 30 gallons, which eventually goes into 30 barrels. So most of our beers have this mixed culture that I've personally grown up from our bees, and then in the fall we replace it with that honey harvest, the yeast from that honey harvest culture.
Do you know what types of yeast are found in your mixed culture? Have you had that looked at?
No, I know that the podcasting, especially coast to coast, is a relatively auditory format, but I'm a bit of a Viking, and I live by some old standards, and I don't get very micro. It's more, everything's kind of palate, sense, experience driven.
Okay.
I don't want to look under a microscope. I think it'll take away the magic of it all, personally. I mean, if things are functioning, then they're functioning, and I've learned ways to herd the microbes, but I don't like looking under a microscope.
Yeah, I like that.
And that was the original plan, is to bank things. But if you talk to people like, I know, are you sponsored by White Labs?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, that is one of our sponsors, yeah.
Yeah, and they're great people. I met Neva Parker, who works there once, and we talked about it. And she said that, when they get these mixed cultures from brewers, these wild cultures, what they do is they have to plate the most predominant of those cultures, right? And they separate them, and then they mix them back together. And that's not how things exist symbiotically. So I believe, like, people that are pitching this Brett, this lacto, this PDO in a certain way, things will outcompete each other. And the great part of building mixed culture kind of symbiotically and naturally is that things clean up after each other.
Got it.
And there's been more beer made without accessibility to a microscope than with, because that's a recent invention in brewing terms.
Okay.
The Weinstefaner was making lager before a microscope exists.
Right.
So how does your mixed culture act? I mean, what kind of temperatures can it work at? Is it finicky, or is it pretty versatile? Or?
It's more method acting.
Well, I'm sitting in our old barn right now at our bar because I feel like it was apt for this conversation. And I actually have a flask right over there on top of a foeder that it's 55 in the barn, and it's fermenting pretty vigorously. So that's something I want to experiment with, cooler fermentations. But generally, I push I push fermentation through in the mid-70s, and it'll free rise. I have no stainless steel fermentation, so I have no glycol. I have no capacity to control temperature other than heating things up in a kettle, essentially. So everything ferments probably in the mid-70s, and will finish up in a few days in the 80s, and then will be aged for a long period of time. And nothing really finishes until it extends over a year, 8 months in terms of gravity. Nothing with my culture will get to zero fermentables until about 8 months.
Wow.
But everything drops to about under 2 Plato, like a standard fermentation of in a few days, actually. But,
so then are you brewing with the seasons? Are you able to brew year-round?
Yeah, I mean, I try to brew year-round because I'm in the position of being a modern brewery that has this whole like capitalism thing connected to it,
Right.
So you got to sell beer, I guess. So I try to do it year-round, but I'll tell you, I really despise brewing in the months previous to this month. And this month, I don't know when. Oh, this is live, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like in the end of the summer when this barn will stay at over 80 degrees, it's Fahrenheit. It's just like, it's nearly impossible. And I cool ship everything. So even the pitch that I'm pitching, everything, I don't go through a heat exchanger. I go down into our cool ship all year round. And then I'll come back up through a heat exchanger in the hot months. But I'll let a night have its way with work in the cool ship, at least with every single batch. And then in the summer, you're just picking up, even if my culture is strong, you're picking up a ton of bacterial presence. And so it's like things acidify. Like, and I'm, I think the trend in sour beer in this country, or wild beer in this country, is to try to pull back acidity in the last couple of years. It went from being like, oh, let's see how sour we can make beer to let's see how subtle we can make sour.
Yeah.
And in the summer, I'd say in September, August, it's hard to make a beer that doesn't drop below 3.5 pH, which is not a place I like. I like the beers to hang out in anywhere between 3.5 and 4 pH. That's like where I really enjoy drinking a beer. And a lot of people disagree. A lot of people like beers at 3.0 to 3.5, but I don't know. For me, it's not beer. You can't drink a lot.
Okay.
So if you go from the kettle to the cool ship, when do you add your the pitch of your culture?
Yeah, so I'll go from kettle to cool ship, and a night like tonight, which is like 40 degrees here. I didn't brew tonight. I'm brewing tomorrow, but I'll go back up from. Oh, I'm sorry, you're not sitting here next to me, which is a shame. But we have a 3-tier barn, so I mill with gravity from the hayloft into the mash tun, and then it goes from gravity from the mash tun in the brew house to the cool ship in the cellar with all the barrels, and then it comes back up if I'm pitching, and then it'll come back up into this tank I had a local sauna maker make out of Hudson Valley oak, and I'll pitch in that tank, which has become kind of like a homogenization point, like a seasoned cast iron pan. And I'll pitch in there, and then if the beer is going to age for a long period of time after primary fermentation with our culture, it'll go back down to the cellar in barrels. Or if it doesn't, we have 3 closed top fooders. That Hudson Valley tank is open, so we have 3 closed top fooders that get the beer anaerobic and make sure that acetobacter doesn't reign, and then we can treat beers in the 3 closed top fooders.
So
and then they'll turn around relatively quickly. If they'll turn around in a few months.
So when you're describing this process and using your own yeast your own mixed culture, are you saying that's just for 10% of your beers, and then you have maybe a more manufactured pitchable yeast for the rest of your 90%, or do all of your beers?
No.
Okay.
But yeah, for 5 years I've only used New York State ingredients, and I've only used cultures I've constructed.
Okay.
So the only beers where I'm not pitching the yeast that we have built up, the mixed culture I've created from the farm, from the honey. I said that 10% is spontaneous.
I understand.
So the only beer that's not using the yeast that I have cultured from the farm is beer that's spontaneousally fermenting.
Okay, understand.
And you said each year you essentially create a new culture from the most recent honey harvest.
Yeah, like biannually. So yeah, in spring and in the fall.
Okay.
So we have one of your beers in our glass, which is the barn beer. Your barn
Gross.
beer. I'm loving this beer. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, that's like kind of that's our simple staple beer. It's my favorite. It's the one I brew the most year round. Most beers are just one vintage. It's like I think we sent you another beer, like a strawberry beer. That's just from that year's strawberries. Whereas barn beer is probably brewed 10 times, like close to once a month.
Wow.
It's a beer that's with that 6-row barley, really simple base malt, about 20% unmalted wheat from that same organic farm. It's really close to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes to the cool ship overnight, comes back up goes into a closed top foeder immediately, gets a pitch of our yeast built up from honey, and there are hops in the cool ship. They're New York Sterling and New York Perla hops in the cool ship, and then it comes up to a foeder and ferments for about a week, primary fermentation, then gets dry hopped with Perla hops, and then ferments for it's a DBH, bros. It's a DBH. It gets dry hopped again with New York Chinook hops.
Okay.
After a week, and then it ages for a month, and then it gets bottle conditioned, ages for a month, where the Brett really starts shining, and then it goes out. And I bet the beer that you have is probably 3 months, 4 months old at this point from it even being released. So total, like maybe 5-6 months, which is a point where I really like the way the Brett pushes and changes the hops. And
yeah.
I don't know. You guys like it? It's soft.
It's really
lemony,
good.
It's
Yes.
funky. It's not too tart. That's what I was talking about, like that space in between 3.5 pH and 4 pH. And
Yeah. We're loving it, this beer. I think it's right where you want it, in my opinion. And you're right about how some of the funkiness and the tartness is subtle. My very first sip, I actually thought, oh, well, this is really close to like a nice traditional French saison. But then you start to get the complexities of Brett and more tartness than I think you'd find in a French saison.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's still, to me, like a really great example of like a traditional farmhouse style beer.
Absolutely.
What I really like about it is the the softness of the malt. There's malt sweetness there a little bit. So I'll disagree a little bit with what you're saying earlier about you think American sours are kind of decreasing the acid. I think everyone's still trying to push that for some reason. A lot of the sour beers that I taste are very kind of monochromatic and high acid, and I can't drink a lot of them. But this I can really drink a lot of. It has a sweet malt to it. It's very subdued. It lets the Brett kind of showcase and lets the malt kind of show through as well. Mm-hmm. There is some hop flavor there too, which is good. A little bit of bitterness on the back, which I like. But I think that your zone right there between 3, 5, and 4 is perfect. I think it's perfect for beers like this.
Yeah.
To me, the dry hopping is hard to distinguish from some Brett characters that I've gotten in other farmhouse and kind of Belgian funky beers.
Yeah, but I'm okay with it.
Oh, I totally think this is a great beer, but I wouldn't have guessed in a million years, oh, this is dry hopped.
No.
I would just be like, oh, it's a Brett saison kind of sour Belgian style beer.
Yeah, but I think that is dry hopping to add some different hop character.
Mm-hmm.
is good.
Well,
and it doesn't need to
dry
be
hopping with New York hops. These hops that are
right.
in their infantile stage, and it's working with these hops that are generally subtle. So it's not like what we've the last 5 years understanding what dry hopping or double dry hopping means. It's kind of just like to work with that secondary fermentation, making that Brett a little bit angry, so it turns that Chinook from piney into pineapple. It's like working with those hops and a lot of experience. I mean, it's the only beer I've brewed a lot of. So like the dry hopping, and it's a lot of hops really for a beer that doesn't seem like it has hops in it, but it's to work with to push some of those Brett characteristics, because it's all about the angrier yeast gets, especially in particular Brettanomyces, the more interesting it gets, the more it throws flavor compounds.
I do definitely get some of that Brett pineapple aroma and flavor.
Absolutely.
And the hops that you did add, and especially at the levels that you did, are very complementary to the Brett character.
Are you guys going to shit all over this beer after I get off the phone? Man?
Probably.
Yeah, but you'll never know. I mean, you probably don't even have electricity there, so.
Oh my God! Yeah, I had to rub two sticks together really fast to get this phone call.
He's in the barn pedaling on a bike.
Yeah,
that's powering the computer.
We actually had Bevo, our call screener here, run a cup with a string tied to it all the way to New York so that we could do this. And we're so excited about the beer.
It's a lot of running.
No, not at all. This is a beer that I'll tell you how you can tell what we like it is that the whole team here starts giving their opinion about everything. If there's a show where we don't like the beer, it's pretty quiet in here. So
no, this is very good, very good, very soft. I like that the malt softness is is complimentary, like what's Warren saying, but in a different way, in a better way. I said it better.
It sounded better. I mean, I personally. Two-row would make this beer a little better, I'm totally kidding.
But like 40%.
Right, yeah.
Can I see that bottle, Jay? I'd like to examine it.
You're right.
This is good. You're doing some good stuff.
I think it's a really good beer. And so you did kind of cover this. I just wanted to go back to it. But because the New York hops are in their infancy, it sounds like you do have to use more of them to get some of these effects than you would, say, a commercially available mature hop.
Well, I mean, it's if the intent is to brew with things that a new wave of agriculture that's being grown for beer making, then you're looking at people that don't know what they're doing on the agricultural side of it. Just like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing on the brewing side of it.
Okay.
Yeah. And so you're dealing with, and people don't know this, I don't think, but closer to you, the hop varietals that have been predominant for the last, actually not the last few years, but the years before that, like Citra and Centennial, all these things are still under contract, much like Monsanto will contract agriculture. So it's impossible to grow those here. It's illegal to grow those things here without having that particular license, and they're not giving those licenses to East Coast growers. So we have to find a way around that. And so a lot of people are growing old world hops, which 5 years ago when I started, nobody wanted. Or they're growing the classic C's like Cascade, and Centennial is actually out of licensing, but it's public domain. But
okay,
like Chinook, Cascade, Centennial, but then they're growing Perla, Nugget. But some of the noble hop varieties, Saz is being grown here, and then nobody gave a shit because everybody wanted Citra, and now everything's grown in Southern Hemisphere that people want. But what's happening, I feel like, I don't know if it's on the West Coast or on the East Coast. My neighbor brewer, who's a close friend of mine, it's made a big splash called Suarez Family Brewery on making very subtle beers. And there is a resurgence to subtlety. I know you guys like lager beer, and everybody likes beer that tastes like beer. And Saz and Perla and Sterling, these hops that grow really well here and have been grown here longer than the other hops, I think are making a resurgence. And like hops are great. They're the best complement to wort possible, and we established that when we got away from Gruits, and they are really great, and it can be balanced really well. But I don't think we need a mosaic in every beer. I think things like Saaz and terroir are really cool, and subtle.
I don't disagree at all. Yeah. Well, I got to get us to a break, and then we've got another beer of yours to try, too, that we can keep having this discussion, which is the Amor, I think it's called, right?
A little more assertive, that one. So you might take back everything you said.
This one is awful.
Well, hang out to find out. So, folks, we're going to take a quick break. I just wanted to give you a reminder before we do that the American Homebrewers Association, organizers of Learn to Homebrew Day, wants to let you know that that's coming up November 3rd, and they invite you to attend a Learn to Homebrew Day event near you or host your own celebration. And you can do that by visiting the AHA website, homebrewersassociation.org, and view a map of Learn to Homebrew Day events, as well as resources for promoting your own Learn to Homebrew Day gathering. So go to homebrewersassociation.org and check it out for Learn to Homebrew Day. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, more from Plan Beer Farm Brewery. So hang in there. It's The Session. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Brewcasters. On the Brewing Network.
Your support of the Brewing Network means everything to us. We couldn't produce shows without you. And we love giving you something extra for that support, like Brew Your Own magazine. You already know it's a great brewing magazine full of recipes, equipment how-tos, discussions of beer styles, and brewing techniques. Whether you're new to brewing and just starting out or you're an old pro, you'll always learn something from the articles in Brew Your Own. Plus, they're amazing special issues like plans for building a Brutus 10 system, 250 classic clone recipes, and the Homebrewer's Answer Book. Brew Your Own magazine and BYO.com are awesome resources for any brewer, whether for yourself or as a gift. When you subscribe or resubscribe from the Brewing Network homepage, you directly support programs like this. Get a great magazine and support the Brewing Network. Subscribe to Brew Your Own right from thebrewingnetwork.com.
Are you looking for a simple brewing system that's great for all grain brewing, but everything on the market seems to be full of compromises? Blickman Engineering has the answer. The Blickman Brew Easy All Grain Brewing System. The Brew Easy is a complete system with easy upgrades and a beautiful compact design, perfect for any size brewing location. At its core, the Brew Easy is built on two gorgeous Blickman Boilermaker brew kettles, a high-temperature March pump, and either a top-tier gas burner or the new Boil Coil electric heater. The Brew Easy adapter lid allows the pots to stack on top of each other, forming an efficient, strong, and compact brewing setup that comes in 5, 10, and 20-gallon batch sizes. Upgrade your Brew Easy system with full automated control by adding a Blickman Tower of Power temp controller, and make moving around easy with the Blickman Kettle Cart. The Brew Easy is modular. If you already own a Boilermaker kettle, you can build your Brew Easy by purchasing just the modules you need. The new Brew Easy all-grain brewing system. See it today at BlickmanEngineering.com and brew with Blickman quality on your new Brew Easy.
This is Corey King from Side Project Brewing, and you're listening to The Session on the Brewing Network.
All right, welcome back to the program. Thanks again for hanging out with us. And I want to have you go check out brandingbrews.com. It's the Branding Brews podcast with a deep look at everything that revolves around branding and marketing a brewery. Branding Brews interviews industry professionals covering in-depth strategies and topics like labels, packaging, websites, social media content, trademark, marketing, and a whole lot more. So go check it out at brandingbrews.com and get yourself some learning done about how to brand your brews. In the meantime, we are speaking with Evan Watson from Plan Beer Farm Brewery. Hey, Evan, I was just sent a little piece of information from our live listeners about you that I have to ask about.
What's that? You're from Mars.
Yeah, true.
Were you a contestant on The Voice?
I don't know. Maybe.
In your music career.
I don't know.
You were so subtle about your music career.
There's certain... I've got some blackouts in my life. I'm not going to lie. I could have been.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I was on NBC's This Is the Voice.
Right. All right. Well, I just had to ask. Sometimes our listeners dig up dirt on our guests for us, you know.
Yeah. Because we're journalists, so we need to ask the hard-hitting questions.
That's true.
Yeah, always.
It's probably one of your buddies around here that turned you in.
Right.
Could have been. Yeah. It was probably Mrs. Watson. All right. So we do have your next beer in our glass. I thought that would be a good kickoff to this conversation. So tell us about Amore.
Amore is a beer that we've done for 4 years. And I love growing strawberries. It's an easy fruit and a perennial fruit, and it's something you get a good yield off of pretty immediately. So starting out, it was just, sourcing good strawberries locally and then growing a lot more strawberries on the farm. And then I got to a point where I was like, well, can we get the advantage of farming your own strawberries? You can grab like green strawberries before they're ripe and add that. You can add strawberry leaves. You can add mushy strawberries that are rotting. And I feel like that's what we've done for the last couple of years, is like a degree of strawberry quality to try to capture what a strawberry is. And this beer is just similar base to our barn beer. It's just beer that's been aged much, much longer. It's developed more acidity. It's much tartar, and it's blended back on in a foeder on strawberries. Some from a local farm to subsidize it, but a lot from our farm. And like I said, green strawberries to overly ripe strawberries, and it's funky. It's soft, tart, like sharply acidic.
Yeah, it is all those things. And you were right off the bat when you said, hey, guys, this one's going to be a little more aggressive than the last one. But not out of whack. It's not coming out of left field, but it's definitely a stronger tart flavor, more acidity, right?
Yes.
But the soft strawberry flavor, I think, helps that a lot.
Right. Well, and when you ferment strawberries, there's not much flavor left. It's mostly just acidity.
Okay.
Just like the very faint essence of strawberries. So I was kind of curious how much you added to this beer, because you still get quite a bit of strawberry.
I think from our farm, we don't add more than a pound a gallon. And we get about another, we're at probably this year, we were at like 2 pounds a gallon.
60 pounds per barrel is a lot.
It's a lot, right?
Yeah.
Previous years, we've done 4 pounds per gallon.
How is there any liquid left when you do 4 pounds per gallon?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And the problem with that is there's a lot of natural acidity within the strawberry.
Of course.
It's a hard fruit to make sour beer with, because it's got a tremendous amount of ascorbic acid and things that will kind of render yeast just dead. And it's hard to re-ferment on, and things get down to 3 pH, and it's just like a hard thing to work with. So we've tried to dial it back, push the funk out a little bit more, push the oak out a little bit more, and try to rely more on what we can grow versus what our neighboring farm can grow. Yeah, I like I said with acidity, maybe I was just being optimistic, but I feel like at least on the East Coast, things are getting far or closer, at least from the brewer's intent, are getting less acidic, and I think that with that too, like subtlety comes in flavors, and like instead of trying to make straight up jam like Oud Beer Cell Creek, we're trying to make things that are
right
complementary to the beer.
I would still put this solidly in the middle of the American sour spectrum in terms of acidity strength.
Okay. I think it.
Oh yeah.
I think it's surprisingly refreshing, this beer. With those, because there are these strong characters to it, sometimes that's just more of a sipper. But remember, I used to talk all the time about how when you go to Belgium and you order sour beers, you get it in a pint glass there. That's just how they drink beer, because they find them to be refreshing beers. Yeah. This is a beer that I would drink by the pint because, and maybe that has to do with the kind of cool, soft strawberry, refreshing part of it. That cuts through the acidity enough, and then of course the acidity makes me thirsty. It makes me want to drink more.
Here's what it does for me is there's a tannin quality to it,
Okay.
and so I'll drink it, and it's tart and it's good, and then the tannins kind of squeeze my salivary glands, and it washes away all of the beer in my mouth. So in a way, it dries it out, but it's not dried out, right? It just kind of refreshes my palate, and I keep going, I want to taste that again. Where did it go? And then I keep drinking it. It's a very good beer.
Yeah,
it's very well balanced.
And so, how do you process the strawberries at all, or are you just throwing whole strawberries into this beer?
No, I macerate the strawberries, so like 5-gallon buckets of what we can harvest and freeze and stuff from a local orchard. Then we'll just do we'll have like an immersion blender in a 5-gallon bucket and add them throughout the season.
And how long will it sit on that fruit?
We'll blend them. That's what I was saying.
Okay. And you said that this goes into a foeder on top of the fruit. How long will it sit in there?
Yeah, it's beer that's blended up from barrels from their cellar back to a foeder on the fruit for re-fermentation. And it'll be on there for like a month and a half. Like not too long.
Okay.
You kind of want to sustain some of those flavors. And a month and a half to 2 months is kind of a nice window of strawberry harvest.
And is this just with your own yeast culture as well, or is this spontaneous? Yeah. Okay.
No, this is all beer that's been inoculated with our culture and then aged for probably anywhere from a few months to a year.
Got it.
And then added.
How big are your foeders?
Hey, how big are your foeders?
I know.
Yeah, Warren.
I'm not foeders on here.
There's always size with this guy.
I'm not the one with foeders, so I'm foederless
Pretty
over here.
personal question.
That's right.
So Warren's foeders are small.
Right.
I have one Foeder Crafters foeder. Shout out to Foeder Crafters of St. Louis. They're amazing.
Oh, yeah.
It's been custom made. It's 28 barrels. But that's not what I use for this beer. That's for the barn beer. The other foeders, one is 10 hectoliters and one is about 15 hectoliters. So like one's like 11 and a half barrels. The other's like 9 barrels or 8 barrels, I guess.
I was just trying to get an idea of how much strawberry sludge you're having to scoop out of the fermenter after this beer.
Well, whatever, that's fun. I like that.
That's fun. I like being messy.
I like, I used to jump in puddles as a child.
Right.
I like to get in there.
Understood. Well, you're doing well. This beer is great.
This beer is excellent.
Yes.
And I wanted to bring up another local ingredient. I guess you can call it ingredient. I read on your website that even some of your barrels are locally grown oak.
Yeah, I mean that's speaking of primarily the open kind of they're horny tanks, really, like open foeders that are made out of Hudson Valley oak that were constructed by this guy named Bob up in the Adirondacks.
Of course it was.
Who makes saunas. And then I do some fermentation in whiskey barrels from a local distillery that has a very similar ethos. It's very close to us. And Bob makes the whiskey barrels for them out of Hudson Valley oak, out of New York white oak. So there is some of that. I mean, predominantly the aging is happening in spent wine barrels from either Napa or France.
Okay.
That and then we got this one big St. Louis foeder, which they're using the Missouri oak, white oak from Foeder Crafters, and then the other two are moldy foeders they're Hungarian oak, but they're constructed in Italy.
Okay.
So I don't want to lie to you guys.
I appreciate that.
Is the steel that the rings are made of on the barrels also made in New York?
Right.
No, yes, The answer is yes.
Okay.
Well, okay.
Yeah. Make America great again.
That's right.
So you're doing it single-handedly, man.
New York.
The more I talk to you,
that was very tongue-in-cheek. Let me.
that's fair. We understand. Yeah, talking to you about all this, and you mentioning you're kind of a Viking. I picture that he doesn't even have like cotton clothes. Like he's wearing a hide that he killed over the summer.
Some
right
linen,
now.
like yeah.
You know.
What are these clothes that you see?
Right. His house is just like carved out of a tree, you know.
Built into the side of a hill.
Right.
So it's 68 degrees no matter what.
Houses that you speak of.
Right, yeah. Exactly. And by the way, when you have your Viking burial, can I be the one to shoot the flaming arrow into your canoe that we push off into the Hudson or wherever we go?
If you're capable.
Oh, you'll never burn. If Justin is shooting that arrow.
Yeah, how strong? Justin's not very strong.
I'll just light myself on fire.
It'll flip back and poke him in the eye and then burst him into flames.
Right. Always stealing the show, that Justin.
Look at me.
Stepped all over Evan's funeral.
We do have a pond. We have like a swamp pond that I've said that's what I want to happen.
Yes.
When I meet my maker and Emily, my wife's like, absolutely not, because then our grandchildren will be swimming around in the pond, and every time they feel like grass tickling their feet, it's like, it's Grandpa.
That's true. She makes a good point.
The bones are going down in the pond, you know.
Right.
I'm just going to live in that pond. It's going to be haunted.
Listen, you have to give back to the land.
Right.
It only
Yes.
makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
And a pond increases Justin's chances of actually hitting your float.
That's true. Control situation.
I think the only way I could hit him is if he's in a bathtub in front of me.
I think we should just light Justin on fire and then get like a trebuchet to then catapult him into the.
Oh my God!
You know,
Hey, that's not a bad way to go out for both of you.
if you're going to go out, you might as well go out strong and on fire.
I agree.
That seems like very Monty Python.
Yeah.
Or Hunter Thompson, but
yeah. Well, can you tell us about any other interesting ingredients we might find interesting from the farms around you that you're using? Different fruits, vegetables, spices, anything like that?
No.
No, that was about it.
No, they're things like just using New York ingredients and trying to compete in the market with all these fancy lactose crazy pineapple guava things or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been interesting working with farmers and getting to learn things. I'd say we do a beer called Zone 6, which is alluding to our growing region, which is a relatively cold growing region.
I thought it was a Gucci Mane reference, but.
But it's the adjuncts are black currant and quince, and fruits that people don't think of often, but in my opinion are very similar to tropical fruits. Like black currant has a lot of parallels to guava and passion fruit, kind of like those sharp, funky, but kind of deep, savory, Swedish fish-like fruits, and then the quince has this huge pineapple aroma on its skin. It's a relative of a pear, and it's like so much so that when we transport it from the farm, we get it in our car. Our car will smell like it for months.
Wow.
It's just like perfect. And we'll just use the skins. It's so intense, and that's been one of our most popular beers. But it's like saying, hey, these are all these huge like pineapple and tropical flavors from fruits that are grown in cold, hardy growing regions. That's a good example. I mean, things we grow on the farm, we grow a lot of herbs. We grow, all the lemon herbs, lemon thyme, lemon verbena, lemon basil, lime basil, all those kinds of things. I love growing these heirloom corn varieties. They're really cool, and then we use that as an adjunct for a few of our beers. And I don't know.
Do you do any draft sales, or is it all bottle conditioned? Because we just have bottles sitting here.
We don't really do draft sales. It's very rare that beers go out to bars in a draft format, but we have 8 taps at the barn.
Oh.
And we invite people Friday, Saturday, Sunday to come and drink drink beers at the barn, and those are all keg conditioned. So everything's. I don't have. I don't do like CO2 injection or forced carbonation. So everything's because that's a pretty vital part of the flavor profile is the re-fermentation of our beers with our culture. So that everything we have draft beer, but it's primarily just at the bar.
Okay.
When you do the conditioning, do you also add more culture at that time, or are you just adding sugar and letting what's there?
It really depends on the beer. If the beer's aged for a very long time, then we'll add our culture back to it. But if the beer, like the barn beer, I intentionally don't repitch culture because I want the count of Brett to be fairly low, so it does push those flavors a little bit quicker. The more stress, yeast stressed out is what creates flavor. Whether it's temperature or low cell count or ethanol, acidity, those things that stress the the components of a beer that stress out yeast will create more flavors. Those might be off flavors, and it's all about learning how it fits in. But I found with the beers that are more farmhouse beers that turn around within a month or so, not to pitch because it'll drive a more complex bottle conditioning flavor.
Got it. Sounds like you like to work. It sounds like you like to work really hard over there, Evan. If I can't tell if you like beer more, or you just like working.
Working?
All the farming, all the.
Well, there's no difference between it for me. Like we lived here for 3 years, and now we have an apartment off the farm. But when you're trying to run away from a music career that just stabbed you in the back, you just fucking put your head down and just keep working.
What happened? Evan, who hurt you?
I cannot wait to get drunk with you and hear this your life story.
I know. I want to know who hurt Evan and why.
Yeah.
No, it's all good, guys.
Everything's fine.
He reminds me of Push.
Yeah,
Mr. Charlie Essers.
Okay, why?
Because he had a huge
other life.
He had an other life that he doesn't want to talk about in the music industry.
Right.
Our friend Evan was big into music production. Produced albums like with Ice Cube and the Beach Boys and all. And he
but would never talk about it.
Talk about his work. I think he was either Emmy nominated.
Yes.
Or he won something, or I forget. Never cared. Refuses to talk about it.
Right.
And you remind me of that man.
The only thing he'll say is he hates the Beach Boys.
Yeah. So every time they come around or anything, I send him a thing. I go, hey, dude, just Beach Boys album. It's great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the more you put yourself out there in this world, the more you can get scarred.
That's true. That's a good point you make. Actually, that's what that's today's advice for the show.
The lesson of the show.
It's the lesson of the show. The more you put out there, the more scars you have. Now, do you also have axe throwing on weekends when the tap room is open? I picture that as a thing.
But axe body spray throwing.
Yeah.
You just throw that.
It's safer. Yeah. We throw. Do you guys remember there's an Axe body spray flavor that was called Really Ripped Abs? That was an actual.
No.
But now I want it.
We've got a pallet of it, and that's how we start all of our bonfires. From an aerosol explosion of Really Ripped Abs.
I love that. Well, can I ask this personal question? Because you brought it up. You said you now have an apartment off of the farm. Why did you do that?
Yes, sir.
Just to separate from the biz a little bit, or?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's actually a brewery in this apartment complex, so it's
can't get away from it.
Yeah.
Did you know that before you got the apartment?
What's that?
I said, did you know that before you got the apartment?
Well, we recommended these people to the owners of the complex to put in the brewery. I don't know.
Got it.
It's called King's Court Brewing, but it's in our apartment. Yeah. I don't know. It's a way to get away. I rarely sleep there.
Okay.
Because tonight I'm at the farm. We're bottling tomorrow morning. So if I'm brewing or bottling, I sleep here. I don't know. I love the farm. We're planning on building a real house here. We have this little tiny cabin, a 400 square foot cabin here. So
okay,
and we have a daughter, as I mentioned before, and it's just like it's tight quarters.
Because now that makes sense to me, because I couldn't picture all of this on the farm and everything grown and the Viking mentality, and then he leaves and puts on like a Gucci suit and lives in a gated community. Like that part just wasn't fitting. He's in like a luxury condo down the road after getting filthy all day at the farm.
Right, Balenciaga slides. You gotta.
But it makes sense now. You had a place for your family until you can build a house there. Now I get it.
It's a renovated hotel. It's actually we're like close with the Poughkeepsie politicians and stuff, and it's the wife of the mayor who renovated this hotel. Poughkeepsie's not in a great spot right now in terms of development and quality of life in the city of Poughkeepsie. So it's a way of just like being a part of the movement, and also it's a cool place, but we call it the hotel. So it's like we're going to the hotel. So it's a way for me after like weeks of just not showering. It's like when if you've ever traveled around and you get a hotel that's really nice, you're like
oh yeah.
You watch Guy Fieri, some diners, drive-ins, and dine.
Yeah, you get like one night of luxury. It totally makes sense. It's so refreshing. You're going to confuse your child, though, staying at the hotel her whole young life. She's going to be weirded out later on when people ask her to go to the hotel.
I don't know.
Just watch out for that.
She's already confused.
Okay, that makes sense. I know Poughkeepsie a little bit. My brother lived there. He went to the Culinary Institute that you have there.
Oh, dear Lord, yeah. We love the Culinary Institute. They're great.
I was thinking that's probably an interesting resource for you from time to time to work with the culinary students there.
I just brewed a beer there last week.
Excellent.
With they Culinary Institute is Brooklyn Brewery has actually built a brewery in the Culinary Institute, and one of my close friends, Hutch Kugelman, who's one of the great New York brewers, is the professor of brewing. I guess I'm not supposed to say professor. He's a professor, and he teaches all the kids how to brew. And we went and I brewed a beer over there recently. And the culinary students come over here once a year, or I guess once a semester, to see something that's kind of far out and different and connected to agriculture. So we have a close relationship with them. It's in Hyde Park-ish. They always say Hyde Park. It's really Poughkeepsie. Okay. But you know Poughkeepsie then?
Just a little bit. I had only visited him a couple of times there, so I knew that it's kind of way the fuck out there, and that it has an extremely excellent culinary institute. I mean, that's one of the highest-rated culinary schools in America, really.
Yeah, it's great. It's the CIA. The other CIA.
Well, and we have a division of it out here in Napa, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah. But I think you still, if you want the real credibility of getting a degree from CIA, you still go to Poughkeepsie to get it. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's we have Marist College and also Vassar College and Dutchess Community College in Poughkeepsie. So we have a lot of opportunities. It's just one of the cities in the Hudson Valley that ran down through the 70s, 80s, post-industrial and crack.
Yeah.
The crack times. And yeah, I mean, but there are a lot of cities that have made a pretty strong comeback that are just south of us. So, we're working at it. And we're interesting that we're still in Poughkeepsie, so we're really accessible. We're only a few miles from the Metro North train station, which is the last stop with public transport to the city, New York City. And these farms here where we are, the Underhill family farms, fed a lot of the Hudson Valley. It's like 500 acres were the last agriculturally zoned acreage in this area. But it's very strange to come to our brewery because there are cul-de-sacs and communities that have been built up and developed right up against us.
Oh, that is interesting.
And then you come back to us, and it's all these barns from the 1800s. And it's a pretty cool thing to have the proximity to a fairly metropolitan area, and people come up here on the weekends, even from the city of Poughkeepsie or the town, even from down the road, and they're like, I feel like I'm in another place.
I like that. Well, like I said, I hope to one day make it there and get drunk with you so I can hear the rest of your life story, man. You're an interesting guy.
Oh, well, I'm very honored for you guys to want to talk to me. I'm eating corn nuts right now.
He's like, my wife doesn't even talk to me anymore, so this has been nice.
What, your wife's not talking to you? What's that about?
None of them.
If I had one, she wouldn't. You can be sure of that. All right, folks, you can go to Plan Beer Farm Brewery and check out more and learn about the beers and get the tasting room hours and go check them out up there in Poughkeepsie. Evan, thanks so much for being on the show and sharing your beer with us, man. It's really good.
Yeah. It's my pleasure. It's an honor. Thank you, guys.
All right, brother. Be well, and thanks again. Cheers.
Yeah, take care.
All right, there you go. That's Evan Watson. He's the owner and co-founder of Plan Beer Farm Brewery out there in Poughkeepsie, New York. And all right, now just so he knows,
yes,
the beer really was good, right?
It was good.
It's still good.
I thought it was
still good.
I thought it was fantastic. And
his beer? Oh, no. Okay. I was drinking something else, I guess. Oh.
No, that first beer, just the barn beer, I really loved it.
It was great. It was really good, man.
Both of them very good. So.
Yeah. And there's no chance of us finding this beer out here, right?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
That makes me sad.
I know.
I know, right?
We might actually have to follow through on a visit with this one so we can have the beer again. But
I barely know where New York is, let alone Poughkeepsie.
Right.
It's right above York.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Old.
Idiot.
Dumbass. Okay, we're going to take a break. I want to remind you to go to greatfermentations.com. They got the largest catalog of Blickman products in the world, and their staff is some of the best trained in the business using Blickman products. They offer top-notch customer service and same-day shipping on many items. Check them out at greatfermentations.com. And be sure to like them on Facebook at GR8Fermentation and Instagram and Twitter as well. Greatfermentations.com, a strong supporter of this show, and you should go thank them for that, like we do all the time. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we got an interesting segment coming up. We're going to be talking to Ting from Eagle Rock Brewery about a recent lawsuit. It's gender-related. It's got all the makings of a great drama.
That's true.
So hang in there. It's The Session. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
You're listening to the Brewcasters. On the Brewing Network.
Since 1979, Williams Brewing has offered the finest equipment and freshest ingredients and the best customer service in the business. Check out their brand new patent-pending mash and boil 110-volt electric mashing and boiling unit. This compact all-stainless unit lets you mash, sparge, and boil just about anywhere that has a 110-volt plug. Double-wall construction adds to efficiency and safety, and a precise thermostat keeps temperatures where you want them. Unlike insulated buckets and converted coolers, multiple temperature rest mashing is easy to do, all for under $300. They also feature the Mark II work pump, a magnetic drive high-temperature pump that does the work of pumps that cost twice as much, as well as exclusive Brewer's Edge regulators and quality Keg King kegs and disconnects. Check them out today at williamsbrewing.com to brews their vast selection.
Hey, my brewing brothers and sisters. This is Jamel Zainashev, and I want to tell you about Heretic Evil Twin. You might be familiar with my homebrew recipe, which uses massive late hopping to create a balance between the malty sweet and the hoppy bitter, along with an outrageous malt and hop character. I wanted a beer with the same bold hop and malt character, so we played around with the homebrew recipe until we were able to make a great commercial version too. We've created a beer rich in malt character, full of caramel, toast, biscuit, and an ever so subtle roast note. On top of that, we piled in an insane amount of Citra and Columbus hops at the end of the boil, as well as in dry hopping. This damn-the-cost approach to hopping gives Heretic's Evil Twin a great blast of citrus and tropical fruit that can't be matched by any other hop. The result is a bold, malty, hoppy, but easy-drinking beer. This is our top seller, our flagship beer, and I couldn't be prouder of it. Cheers.
To find Heretic beers near you, click on Find Some at hereticbrewing.com.
Brewcasters are back.
And it ain't 401 beer.
Whatever.
right, welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, and thanks to Plan Beer Farm Brewery for being on the program. If you want to learn more about yeast, gain a more in-depth knowledge, join White Labs November 5th and 6th for their Yeast Essentials 2.0 in Asheville, North Carolina. The 2-day workshop will explore fermentation control points, tips for maintaining optimal yeast performance, and how to develop desired yeast flavor compounds. Attendees will learn methods for off-flavor detection and sensory evaluation techniques of different strains, as well as how to properly troubleshoot different fermentation problems. If you can't make it to Asheville, no problem. They're offering a webinar version of the event. Register you missed early bird pricing. Sorry about that. But you can still register by going to whitelabs.com/education. That's whitelabs.com/education. All right. So as promised, we got a pretty interesting segment for you right now.
I'm excited.
Yeah, we're going to be speaking with Ting from Eagle Rock Brewery down in Eagle Rock,
L.A.
Isn't it the
Eagle
city
Rock
called
district.
Eagle Rock?
No, it's L.A.
It's L.A.
District, yeah.
I got it. Okay.
And I want to say this is either, if not maybe breaking news, but we're one of the first exclusives, I would feel. I saw like an article on this.
We finally got an exclusive.
Yeah, well, one of the first. So can you have multiple exclusives? It only happened like 6 days ago, this whole thing. So.
Debacle. Well, let's speak with Ting. Ting, are you with us?
I am. Hi.
Hi. Thanks for being on the program. It's good to hear your voice again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, I wish we were having you on the program to discuss something that might be a little happier in your life. But we thought that this was really worth talking about. JP brought this to our attention here, and I said right away, yeah, we got to have Ting get on the program and talk to us about this. So I'm just going to kind of let you explain what happened with your essentially a women's beer group that you had been hosting for years at Eagle Rock, right?
Yeah, so we do a women's beer forum there once a month, and we started this, I don't know, I guess about almost 8 years ago now. And so, different topic every month. We go through different styles, talk about the historic basis of the styles, the breweries that made them, things like that, and essentially originally developed to kind of bring more women into the dialogue of beer and to give the people who attended a vocabulary, essentially, so that when they go into kind of the growing beer scene in L.A., if they go into a bar and talk to a knowledgeable bartender, they'd be able to be directed in that massive volume of list of beers so that they can kind of be directed to the right style for them, so to speak.
Okay.
So yeah, that all started a while back.
What led you to? That's okay. What led you to feel like a specific women's group might be helpful? What was happening in the industry that made you think, well, I feel like something's missing here?
Have you never been to JBS?
Yeah.
The bathroom lines, man. The bathroom lines. That's what made me decide.
Understood.
So you want longer lines at JBS,
right?
Actually, what it was that when we started up in 2009, so at Eagle Rock Brewery, we were one of the only breweries open in the city of LA. Mm-hmm. Actually, I think we were the only one that was open in the city limits of LA at that point. And it was just one of those things where I was, small mom and pop. It was myself, my husband Jeremy, and my father-in-law Steve. So the three of us were still spending lots of time behind the bar. Being the one woman behind the bar, ladies would come up and ask me what I liked to drink because they got dragged there by their spouse or their boyfriend or friends of theirs. And so the women would tend to gravitate towards somebody who thought, who they thought would be able to appreciate kind of their palate sensibilities. But so frequently, I guess for lack of a better word, mansplaining would happen.
Yeah.
On my behalf even. I mean, I would just get straight up cut off as I started to explain anything. So I was just like, oh, all right, so okay. And quite frequently there were explanations that weren't entirely correct, but at the same time I was just like, all right, you're just going to run with this, and I'm just going to go on to the next customer in line. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But then also when we were going to beer events, because of the fact that there wasn't that much of a beer scene in LA at that point in time. So when we would go to beer events, the number of times that beer reps would come up and assume that because I was a woman that I would really dig this blueberry wheat beer that's super gnarly.
Yeah, of course.
So after drinking a number of beers that weren't necessarily my style to drink, and seeing this behind the bar, I just figured that I wanted to create a space where it's just like women could come and learn about beer in an environment that it wasn't so male dominated. And that's kind of the overarching fact, is that beer industry, we talk about it within the industry all the time of how to include more women in the dialogue. The answer is not making chick beer, or whatever the hell that is.
Whatever that is. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's just one of the things that, or a couple of the things that were the impetus to creating the Women's Beer Forum.
Okay. I'm confused. Could you go back and mansplain it all now? I didn't understand.
That's the correct use of that term.
Really understand.
I think so. What are hops? I don't know.
Yeah. And so you've been hosting this group since what? Something like 2011, or?
Yeah, I think March of 2011 was the first one I did.
Okay.
It's the first one I had heard about. And so we've been doing this show for 13 years.
Yeah.
And, there are a couple groups out there that do this, but I think this one that Ting put together was the first one that was ever on my radar.
Okay.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And did you find a lot of, for lack of a better term, success or interest in what you had created there?
Yeah, I was initially when we first started up. I mean, our tasting room is tiny. We have just a handful of tables, seats for maybe 30. And when I first came up with the idea and started to promote the first one, I had kind of told the guys that, I'm just going to, have this women's forum. We'll probably just need that little table in the corner there. This would be good. And then as the RSVPs started coming in for it, I was just like, oh, all right, well, there's a little more interest in that. And I guess we'll move it to the grain room because we can just put some chairs up in the grain room. I mean, at this point in time, our brew house was still pretty empty, didn't have as many tanks. We didn't have fooders in there.
Okay.
And so, but as the RSVPs kept on rolling in, eventually what happened was for that very first forum, we just had to shut down the brew house, and I took over the entire brew house.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It was really shocking, and I was just like, oh man, what have I done now? I actually have to talk in front of people.
Yeah. Okay, so let's fast forward to today now, and I guess there was an incident now that has occurred with this group.
Yeah, so there was a guy that came in, or actually he emailed our general email line first, and to see if men could go into the women's forum, or if men could attend the women's forum. And the response that he got was not entirely appropriate. To be fair, we're kind of blindsided and didn't necessarily have a policy per se. So the response that he got was, no, it's for women, but you're more than welcome to join us in the tap room. It was, it was our bad as from the ownership standpoint, from the organizer. It's just like I didn't really come up with a policy to train staff appropriately on. So because the truth of the matter is we had plenty of men in the women's forum before, both on the presenting side and on the attending side. And so, it was all off of our radar at that point in time because, we're small business owners. So Jeremy and I are essentially always drowning in other emails and paperwork.
Sure.
So then there was the night of the women's forum, or the afternoon of the women's forum, rather. I guess the same gentleman came into the tasting room and kept on asking our bartender if he could go into the brew house. And our brew house is closed to public. The women's forum wasn't going on at that point in time, and the forum is a ticketed event, so people have to purchase a ticket to be able to attend. And so he was denied the ability to go into the brew house because there was nothing going on, and we don't just let people in there because there are actually beers brewing at that point in time.
Of course.
So after that, he just kind of, I guess it was a really awkward exchange because, after all of it started to kind of come to light, we had our bartender kind of write her statement on like what went down exactly so that we could actually get all the notes on it firsthand. And it was really kind of unclear because he never asked to purchase a women's forum ticket, never said I have a ticket and I'm attending or anything like that. So she was unclear on it.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, like a few days later, we get an email saying, if you don't pay me thousands of dollars, I'm going to file a complaint with the ABC.
Wow. And so just to be clear, as you've said here, even though maybe the first email wasn't handled exactly how you would have liked it to, there was not actually a policy that banned men from purchasing a ticket and attending.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. It's not. I mean, it's never been exclusionary like that. It's always been about really kind of opening up the conversation to more people, not fewer.
Got it. So he sends you this email asking you for thousands of dollars or else. Right. And so what do you do? I assume you call a lawyer right away, right?
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I mean, first thing, number of expletives floating around in my brain. Mm-hmm. Probably a few escaped my mouth at that point in time, I'm sure.
Right.
And then, we basically bounced it over to an attorney to have them take a look and advise us on what to do. I mean, it was something that was so strange to me because I'm just like, this, I don't understand. I mean, this is something the women are such an underrepresented population within this community that I really don't understand how this can be constituted as discrimination.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it went to our attorney, and essentially our response was that no, we weren't going to pay him. It was never meant to be exclusionary. We apologized for the errant email that he received, and essentially offered, the same experience for the same price that the ladies paid
for your next event.
The next event, or even if he wanted, because we still had some beers left from that educational forum, if that was the topic that he was really bent on, learning about.
Understood.
We're
okay.
just like, yeah, man. Still got some of those beers. We're happy to have you out and go give you the same educational, talk that we did with the ladies, and just shoot us an email and let us know. We can make that happen.
Okay,
and he said he declined. He declined, and instead of filed a claim with the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, and I guess that's the government agency that handles all of the discrimination complaints.
Okay.
And so his email asking for money before he filed the complaint is not extortion? Or like blackmail?
In my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm no attorney, and
Sure.
I don't, I think the legal definition of extortion is very subject to interpretation based on the attorney or judge that you have in front of you.
Right. But so the basis here still, though, is that there are laws that exist in place where you're not allowed to discriminate based on virtually anything, including gender. So he essentially is citing a law saying you've violated this by excluding the male gender, and on the male gender's behalf, I'm going to sue you unless you pay me enough to shut me up. Is that about right?
Yeah, similar in essence. Yeah, it's kind of pretty much the gist of it.
Well, thank God, because the beer world needs more activists for men. I mean, to be completely honest with you,
yeah, man,
I'm just
poor
gonna,
guys.
Yeah. We're very underrepresented.
Clearly, his goal was not to get into the session and to enjoy the ambience of the instruction. He wanted to collect money from you as a violator of this law, right?
Well, as all of this was kind of unfolding, and our attorneys were doing a little bit of digging, and our staff were doing a little bit of digging, we did, there are groups, and this guy is actually part of one of those groups, and they've had a number of cases that they've filed. Yeah, evidently that number is in the hundreds.
Wow. Okay.
Ew.
Yeah. Bevo is very upset. Yeah.
That was her scumbag sign.
So, okay, now I'm just trying to put myself in your shoes, and one of the first things I'm thinking is, okay, we made a mistake with an email. However, there is no official policy or record of an official policy or very much proof at all that we have been exclusionary or discriminatory based on gender. So I'm ready at this point maybe I'm hoping my lawyer says, yeah, let him sue you, no big deal, because when it goes to court, there's no evidence of wrongdoing.
Mm-hmm. You have evidence to the contrary. It was open. You did allow men to speak, men to attend. That your actions were, it wasn't closed.
So I assume this crossed your mind.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I was just like, no, man, F that. We are not going to pay this guy a dime. I was totally opposed to playing the game. And at the end of the day, I was just like, look, there are plenty of pictures from previous forums like that well predated this whole situation where you see men in the women's forum. And beyond that, it's just like, I know who they are. I can get names because we keep, since it is a ticketed event, we have everybody's names that ever attended. I was just like, no, this is, it's slam dunk.
Yeah, I'm feeling like bring it on, right?
Yeah.
Totally. I was just, putting up my dukes, just ready to fight it. And, totally thought that it wouldn't be an issue for that much longer. And so our attorneys essentially responded to the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, just DFEH, if you will, and said, with basically all the evidence. And then DFEH came back to us 7 months later to say, well, we find cause because of that email.
Wow.
And didn't want to review anything else or anything like that. And I was just like, but I have names, I have pictures,
of
and
course.
they all predate, all of this stuff. But essentially the response that we got from them was we either pay or, they would further investigate and litigate on his behalf. And
okay. Now
going up against a state agency.
Well, here's where it gets weird for me. As if it wasn't weird already. But the fact that this state agency, for one, it's a little bit bothersome that there's a face value claim made. Ting presents evidence to the contrary, and they don't feel like doing any further investigation. And they're prepared now to bring a case against Eagle Rock on his behalf, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Unless he gets paid. Well, here's where I guess it bothered. Now I'm bothered in two ways. I'm bothered by this.
You're multiplying.
I'm bothered by this person bringing a suit, which is clearly looking for money. Mm-hmm. But if the intent of the law is to prevent discrimination,
right?
Why would the agency now care if the guy gets paid or not? In other words, if they truly felt the law was broken, this guy can get paid, not get paid, whatever. It's our job as an agency to defend the law. Mm-hmm. We feel there's a problem here. So sorry, Ting, you're now going to court. But they don't say that.
It's like when cops file against domestic abuse, even though the other party doesn't want to press charges or something like that.
Because the law has been broken.
Right.
Right. Do you see what I'm saying, Tim?
Right.
This part now I'm bothered in two ways, not just by this person, and not by the law, by the way, but by an agency that if they really care about preventing such a thing, and they feel there's a case, I'm taking you to court anyway.
Right.
I mean, I'm glad that didn't happen to you, I guess, but I'm saying. Okay, so they say to you, either pay him or we're bringing a case against you.
Right. And then so, at that point in time, I was still totally, I called around to so many attorneys trying to essentially trying to get the answer that I wanted to hear. Mm. But it was the same kind of through and through, it's just like most of the not advice, opinions that I was getting was essentially that for us to have to defend the brewery in a case of, in a case where we're actually getting sued by the government, it would take $45,000 to $50,000 before we even set foot into court.
Wow. Yeah. Right.
And then
at which point you could lose also, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah.
And even if you win, it's just like, yes, victory. Oh, yeah, and here's the legal bill of $100,000.
Okay.
So because essentially it's just like everybody's like $50,000 to $100,000, easily $50,000 to $100,000.
Wow.
And so I'm just like, oh, great. So it was, it's like it was a very sobering moment in the sense that it did kind of take my buzz right away. Because it was like we were totally convinced that we would be able to fight it. And the saddest part of it is that, most of the vast majority of the attorneys that we spoke with are like, you would win the case if it went to court because of the fact that you do have so much evidence that there were men that have attended the women's forum.
But
however,
it's more expensive to prove that.
Exactly, and which is actually why these groups target small businesses, because they know that small businesses can't come up with the money for litigation, not without potentially losing the business.
And then even if you win a court case, good luck collecting against an individual to then pay your
legal
attorney fees.
Right. Well, with this with this type of case, that actually might not even be on the table at all, because you're allowed to bring a case like this forward, and
because it's versus the state, essentially.
I guess, I'm no lawyer either, but I'm thinking that wouldn't even have been on the table anyway. It's a different type of lawsuit. Interestingly,
I don't have no idea how that end of it would have panned out, but yeah. So essentially, it was just a total bummer,
right?
Of a better word.
So this, I have a friend owns a couple brew pubs, been on the show a few times, and I was visiting him at his brewery restaurant once, and we were talking about this sort of thing, and he was surprised because we had been open a couple years by then, 2-3 years, and he's like, "Oh, you haven't been sued yet?" And he almost just laughed hysterically at me. He's like, "Oh my God, I've settled out 7 times now. It doesn't matter whether you're right, wrong, sideways. Nothing matters. You will get sued, and you're going to settle. It's just what you do because it is nearly impossible to stay open if you don't."
Warren? What should we sue Justin for?
Ooh.
And
you want me to whip out my list?
I hope I didn't jinx myself right now, but I just found that such a sad state of affairs, especially, you know that these things happen. Everybody sees them in the news all the time. The coffee's too hot, bullshit like that. But boy, when it happens to you, Ting, I just bet it was flooring.
Yeah, especially since, it couldn't have been more opposite of what our intentions were, with the Women's Forum. So it was definitely something that, as a team, we're all pretty hurt by it, pretty bummed.
So you settled, basically.
Oh, we had to. Yeah, we had to. It's like I toiled over it.
Yeah,
there were tears of fury. I won't lie. I was pissed.
Yeah.
When the decision had to be made, and especially when Jeremy was just like, we need to settle.
Yeah.
There was a point where I'm just like, you need to leave me alone for a little while.
You go settle something else.
Yeah.
I'll give you something to settle.
Jeremy is my husband and business partner.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, you make it. Jeremy, you need to settle where you're sleeping tonight. Come talking to me about that. Figure that out.
Exactly. But yeah, it was just something that was incredibly challenging. But at the same time, it's just like the notion of out of principle and out of pride to put the entire business at risk. To have to look at my team and say, sorry guys, you guys are all going to have to find jobs elsewhere. To tell my kid that we're going to, sell all his toys so he can live in the car with us would probably be not something that I was really down to do. So, we had some moments, and after I gave myself enough time for clarity, we're just like, all right, well, I guess this is what we have to do.
Yeah.
But that said, I have been speaking to attorneys since about what else can be done. that's kind of the silver lining of it all, is that to try to turn this into a positive is to, it's just like we are an incredible community. The beer community has been tremendous through all of this for us. And, it's just like one of those things in helping to build the beer community here in Los Angeles is, you know what? We're one of the most litigious states in the country. In fact, I think we are the most litigious state in the country. And these groups are continually targeting women's groups. And we're in an industry where we continually try to target women to get them to have a dialogue with us. So from the ethical standpoint, despite the fact that we had settled, I couldn't just walk away and just kind of wait to hear about the next brewery that they did this to. And so we've been talking to, I've been reaching out to just all sorts of different people to kind of figure out, what can we do to institute some form of change in policy or an amendment to the legislation to protect small businesses or to prevent people from being able to essentially make a career out of suing small businesses.
Yeah.
The laws are necessary. Anti-discrimination laws are necessary. Sadly, we're in a world where they still are needed, but for them to be kind of exploited because somebody twists it out of its original intent, it's something that continually happens. Like you see it all the time with all kinds of different laws. And it's where people kind of turn it upside down and use it for the exact opposite of what it was intended for.
Sure. Or even...
And so we've been... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just want to point out again that even... Now, let's say you had discriminated. The law still wouldn't have worked. Because if discrimination occurred, let's say discrimination occurred left and right.
Right.
Let's just say, for my argument, that Ting hates men. And discrimination occurred left and right.
Don't tell Jeremy.
Justice still would not have been served because the agency was perfectly prepared to even drop that suit if the guy got paid.
Right.
It was right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm just hearing of this, Ting. So now I'm the one fuming.
You don't know money cures all wounds, Justin?
Right. And all laws that are broken.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So what can be done, Ting?
So essentially, I've been working with an attorney who is, saying that the only way that anything will change and that any recourse can be done is that we need to institute some sort of a change in the legislation.
Okay.
And so I know that there are all sorts of haters out there that are like, what? You're going to repeal anti-discrimination laws?
Right.
Yeah, and no. Why would I do that? I mean, I'm Asian and female. Like, why on earth would I want...
You got everything going for you.
I'm sure Ting
You're the 1%.
I'm sure Ting has had a perfect life experience with zero discrimination of any kind.
Right. She has 2 Teslas, and she's living the life.
I'm sure that I had no discrimination.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Okay. And is there a specific thing that an attorney has told you can be changed, or different wording? I mean...
Well, and that's what we're feeling out now. So it's just like we're kind of in the research process of how do we go about making this happen? How do we make enough noise? How do we raise, like, how much is this going to cost? Like, what's this going to set? It's just like, what does it cost to change a law? Because, I mean, evidently laws can be purchased somehow, right? I mean,
evidently, yeah.
I mean, it's given our historic basis of who all the laws in the beer industry are in favor of,
right.
It's generally not the small breweries, but so laws have to be able to be purchased. But I mean, it's really at the end of the day, it's what's the process, So we're in the exploratory phase of that. Still continuing to raise as many funds as we can through the GoFundMe program to try to do that. It's just like if it means going to Sacramento, and I mean, Jeremy has gone to Sacramento before with the CCBA and just knocked on doors, visited the office of different legislators to tell them about what, some of the challenges were that small breweries faced. There's things like that, just talking directly to legislators, whether or not we can find an organization that is already starting to try to launch some sort of different language or suggest some sort of different language. Mm-hmm. If we can team up with them, or if nobody else is doing this, which I find hard to believe. Like, I can't.
Right.
I don't know. In my head, I just have a hard time wrapping my brain around the fact that things like this can go down, and people are just like, "Oh man, that sucks. I guess I'll just pay the settlement and then just move on."
I agree with you that it's hard to wrap your head around, because that basically means that all of us small business owners in the entire country have just decided this is the way it is, and nobody has really started this process, and that is hard to believe.
It's the cost of doing business.
I would tend to say that most of the small business owners within the state of California are probably just thinking this is the way it is.
Right.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard of people settling out for like things that I'm just like, what the? Are you kidding?
That's what I'm saying.
It's
yeah.
one of those things where we're in a city we're in a state rather, where the legislation is stacked against small businesses already.
Right.
And so that's the challenge of it, is trying to find somebody who's actually, in support of it, and somebody who's going to kind of champion the change, because unless there is a very unified and very loud voice to kind of put it all together, we're going to continue just squeaking by in our small business voices,
right. And this is obviously not just brewers; it's all small business owners. And by the way, the wording change is easy. It's you're allowed to sue for being discriminated unless you're an asshole. Right. I feel like that would cover. I feel like that covers every.
We'll take care of that guy.
Well, what about assholes? I feel like we're discriminated against.
Yeah, you're right, Beardy.
Shit.
Damn it.
Pay him right now.
Beardy's going to sue me tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, hey, JP, you were asking about that list?
Yeah.
Just got a new entry.
Let's go.
So a change like this costs money, Ting. And I think you've got a plan for that?
Well, I mean, we've got our GoFundMe campaign still going, and we just posted that up 5 days ago, I think.
I just donated.
Our original fundraising goal, because at first I was just like, I don't know, am I going to put this out and people are just going to be like, fuck off, everybody else does it. Oh, sorry, language.
Yeah, you're okay, I did it too.
And so I was just like, if we can raise enough funds, I mean, keep in mind we are a small business, and this situation has been going on for nearly a year, and I'm like, how are we going to pay these bills for our legal fees? And now we have to pay a freaking settlement too.
Right.
And so I was full on panic mode on how we're even going to pay that. It's like, hell, we didn't even go into litigation. And I was just like, okay, so it's going to be financial struggle bus for us. So we started this GoFundMe because it would, to offset that. And then also, I'm just like, there are other women's groups out there. I mean, when I hear of new ones, because I receive the emails, it's like I respond to them instantly and just like, hey, just not discouraging you. I encourage you 100% to do what you're doing. Maybe just add some language in there so that you don't get sued.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so just to really get the word out as much as we can, we met our fundraising goal really quickly. Thank you to everyone who contributed, because holy moly, I was overwhelmed. And so that helped offset our legal fees and the settlement.
Wonderful.
And so by continuing to raise funds, we're going to, shoot for the stars and either, hopefully, fingers crossed. I mean, the ultimate goal of it is let's get some language put in there where people who aren't truly doing any kind of damage to the, doing any kind of anything that's anti-discriminatory, shouldn't have to go through this.
You're right.
So that's what you're going to spend the extra money on, is trying to help fix this problem?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes maybe I think I'm just a glutton for punishment.
Right.
Well, you do own a brewery, so I think you are.
And I'm really, on behalf of all business owners, I'm so glad you're doing it because God knows I can't be bothered. I mean,
well, you're a very important person.
Yeah, this is as far as I go with this thing.
You could click on the GoFundMe page.
That's not true. I really believe in this. So it looks like you can go to GoFundMe.com and search Women's Beer Forum. Is that how they'll find your GoFundMe page?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I just Googled Eagle Rock.
Yeah.
GoFundMe and I found it.
It'll come right up.
Yeah, Eagle Rock GoFundMe.
And it does look like a whole bunch of you have already donated. Bevo just said she donated right during this interview, Ting.
Oh, thank you.
Which means I have to give her a raise.
Yeah, that guy's a wanker.
Oh, yeah, she used the BN credit card, so it's fine.
Right.
I just donated as well.
Okay, there we go. So, if you're listening at home or in the car, when you get to a place that you can do so, go to GoFundMe.com and search Women's Beer Forum, or you can search that in Google. As Tasty said, I don't think you're going to find this. And most certainly, if you're a small business owner, it's something you should be interested in. Or if you just don't like assholes, I think it's a good way to
stick it to the asshole.
Yeah.
And definitely don't go, oh, well, they overmet their goal by like $5,000, so they don't need. It's like Ting said, it's an ongoing thing. It's an exploratory thing. They're going to need a lot of money. And you're helping to bring more diversity into the beer world.
Mm-hmm.
If you care about the beer world at all and you're tired of looking in a mirror every time you go to the bar, we need education. We need to get people in here. And the folks at Eagle Rock, they brew outstanding beers.
They do.
And they do a good job of bringing education to everybody. So, don't worry about it.
Ting, I'm glad you didn't go bankrupt over this nonsense.
Oh, my God. Me too.
Oh, my goodness.
I don't know where I get my solidarity fix.
Right.
Yeah, we were. One of the things is, and I have been kind of remiss in updating the fundraising goal, only because in full transparency, I wanted to find out what an estimate, ballpark estimate, would be at the very least, so it's not just kind of like a super nebulous shot in the dark. And so it really is in hopes of being fully transparent. I'm still waiting for some responses to find out how much it's going to be so that we can kind of release it to the world. Like, evidently, this is what it costs to try to get any kind of legislation changed.
Which is probably far more than anyone thinks.
Of course. It's more than $10,000.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm looking through the people who've donated, who've given.
Are you discriminating against them?
I'm trying to. I'm judging them. No, I'm recognizing a lot of people.
Oh, okay.
Which is really cool, man.
The beer community is great.
Sometimes the beer community is amazing, man. It's this is real. As much as the story sucks because it happened not only in our industry but to people that I like. People are rallying around it, and it's hopefully something positive can come out of it.
Agreed for all of us. Thank you for well, I'm very sorry, as JP said too, that this happened to you. But thank you for putting, taking a positive take on it to see how you can help everybody, and we all appreciate that.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Keep us up to date. We love having you on the show in general. And, if there's any movement on this or you need to get a word out of anything else, if you'd like to post a picture of the individual.
Can we name names?
Home address?
Any of those things I'm happy to do for you.
That's all on the internet. There's articles about it, and it's got pictures of the guy if you want to.
Does it really already?
It's all out there. Yeah. Look it up.
Get his address.
Can we have him on the show?
I did.
We are fair and balanced.
Right. I did reach out to the organization.
We're going into the consulate.
To try to get them at least a response. And they're like, oh, we can't find any information on it. I was like, okay.
Of course.
Here's like the articles, and I never heard back from anything.
Yeah.
So because I'm very curious. I don't understand how it's blackmail. It's a threat of blackmail. That is against the law in and of itself.
Right.
And if you were given the opportunity to right a wrong, it's not discrimination. It was an error.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't. The state has better things to do with their time, surely, than to
not.
do that. Yeah. So I never heard back.
Right.
But I will be following up.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Don't let go.
Well, once again, I'm glad you're taking a positive, spin on this and trying to do something different. I hope you're no longer losing sleep over it like I might tonight, because it's best just to.
I ruined your sleep.
No, it's fine. Believe me, there's plenty of.
Ting is so sweet. She's just apologizing to you because you're some schmuck.
Sorry, you're an idiot.
She got sued.
But really, I mean, it's unfortunate to say, but this is it's part of doing business. What a terrible thing to say.
I know.
I hope we can get something done, Ting. Thanks for spearheading this.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me on the show.
Of course.
All right, keep us up to date. We'll talk to you soon.
Will do. Take care.
Ting.
Thanks, Ting. Bye. All right. Well, they're also just great people down there at Eagle Rock. Every single one of them. And
except Lee, he's an asshole.
Yeah, that mustache.
Yeah.
Glad he cut his hair. No, everyone's good, man. They make my favorite beer in the entire universe. They're just solid people, good beer dudes, and dudettes. I guess I don't want to discriminate.
Whoa, women.
I call my faucet dude. Like it's just a thing. This is my thermos is a dude. Anyway, it sucks, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I think that just another example of this kind of silly thing that can happen. The same guy who had asked me, oh, you haven't been sued yet. Just tell me about a couple of his lawsuits. And one of them was a woman who wanted a place to breastfeed and asked if she could do it in his office.
Yeah.
And he said no, but we do have a locking all-gender bathroom that has a changing table and it has everything that you need to do such a thing. You just can't do it in my office, Right. But he did provide a safe and secure place for that to happen.
Yeah,
lawsuit. And he had to
because she wanted his office,
and he had to settle out of court. For the same reason, because he would have been proven right.
Yeah.
He did provide, but it would have cost him more than just pay the person that she couldn't use his private office.
Well, and I was talking to the Eagle Rock folks like last week, and I was like, you know what? For me, and I'm not saying that you're wrong for not doing this, but I think that I would be able to, and I don't know if you actually can, just be your own lawyer. I forget the term now because I'm stupid.
But
you know what I mean?
Yeah, just to
represent yourself in court,
yeah.
And then then the legal fees are non-existent.
Except that the potential,
right?
The potential for damage is still so high. I mean, let's say, for example, whatever. In this case, actually, would have been a government organization.
Yeah.
They have clearly skilled attorneys against you.
Yeah. Right.
And to bet that you can argue against those legal semantics being an untrained civilian,
they would rip you to shreds.
It's a rough bet.
And
you might win, but it's a hard bet. And the stakes in Ting's case are losing everything.
Right.
Right.
And you're going against a lawyer backed by the general fund of the state of California.
So while I hear you,
there's no limit to the money,
and that it might work.
Yeah,
the gamble is just too high.
But I feel like it's not. It shouldn't be a gamble. I mean, it shouldn't.
It shouldn't be.
It is
right.
a gamble. I mean, I don't know how big of a gamble it is. Is if let's say the breastfeeding thing.
Yeah.
You can't use my office, but we provided a space. Just because she demanded one thing doesn't mean that she gets everything she wants because she has milk coming out of her boobs. Like that's not a. So to me,
there's a. All I can say, I guess, is that there's a reason the legal profession exists, and it is to, in some ways, it is to turn those very things on their head.
Right.
Some
racehorse
and you got to think about that. There are 12 people that all it takes is one potential idiot in that 12 people on the jury making that decision.
Yeah, and he's like, I like breasts. Should have let her use your office. Guilty.
Right.
Like that's
the cameras are in there.
The world
you can't
we
use my office. I don't care. I'm suing you. All right.
Yeah, it's the world we live in.
I don't know, man. That's
rough. Not easy to take.
That's fucked up. That's what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, once again, go to GoFundMe.com and search for Women's Beer Forum or Google it. And if you can contribute, especially if you're a small business owner, please do so and see if we can get something done here. See if Ting can get something done here, I should say. I didn't do anything. Okay. How about some Twitter game results?
Let's
Should
go.
we do that?
Yeah.
Remind me, what was our Twitter game?
Well, our Twitter game was there's a lot of craft beer IP theft these days.
I'm suing you.
I think you should.
Yeah.
I thought of this Twitter game last week.
No.
Whose logo should we steal?
Okay.
And
did we get any good responses?
We got I can't answer. Ask me in a different question. But
did we get any responses?
We got 3 responses. No one cared about the. I thought it was pretty good, but
did you get the original responses?
Apparently not. No, they were all pretty much the same. I would, you know what? Honestly, if I was responding, I would have copy and pasted the last person's response as my response. Yeah. But so Joshua says we should steal from the 21st Amendment. It would be fun just to watch Justin and Sully Rochambeau to settle their beef.
That's true. That would be fun.
Is on Sully, he says. Z says we should steal the Brewdog artwork and attempt to get cheap marketing when you open the Brewing Network hotel in the UK. My response is...
Should I take their artwork that they took for me for the Brewdog Network or just their other artwork?
Burn.
Shots fired.
Well, we only steal from people who make good beer, so it's...
we have standards.
And then Scotty B says the Hop Grenade. I hear they have a rough legal team.
We have a scrappy legal team. What we have.
Anyway, that's it. That's what we have.
I'm going to go with Sully.
There we go.
Yeah.
Rochambeau.
At least we get to have a good old-fashioned
to the winner of that.
All right, Bevo will probably send you a prize. Maybe. I don't know what she does.
Hold your breath.
But we'll get you something, and thank you for playing.
Definitely hold your breath.
Okay, let me just get through a couple of things here for you. This show was also brought to you in part by the City of Concord, the perfect place to start or expand your craft beer business. Concord is centrally located in the Bay Area. It boasts strong craft beer-loving demographics. The city's historic downtown, right where the Hop Grenade is experiencing a boom, with new businesses opening and new apartment developments in the pipeline. Concord's business and industrial parks are centrally located off major freeways and are the perfect for large-scale brewery operations. So contact the city's economic development team. They're ready to help you. You can give Brian Nunnally a call at 925-671-3018. Ready to help you right now, 925-671-3018. That's 925-671-3018. Also, by Beersmith. You can go to beersmith.com. They've got Beersmith 3 is out now, which has support for mead, wine, and cider recipes for the first time ever. A water profile tool built into the recipe builder so you can build and match water profiles within a beer recipe, mash pH estimation and adjustments, all built into the recipe builder. New support for Hop Whirlpool editions, including time and temperature for each time. Boy, does it have it all. A secure connection to online recipe database containing over 700,000 recipes. You can even do boil adjustments for high-altitude brewing. That guy, he just thinks of everything.
Yeah,
Brad thinks of everything.
Very scientific.
Go get your free 21-day trial at beersmith.com. And while you're online shopping, you can go over to adamandeve.com. Use coupon code BNARMY at checkout, and you'll get the exclusive Big O kit as a special gift. You get that. It's got a bunch of things like some Climax gel and a vibrator and all kinds of stuff. Plus, you get 50% off almost any one item and free shipping. Use coupon code BNARMY. That's BNARMY over at adamandeve.com. Save yourself a little cash, and you don't have to be the creepy guy in the in-person store.
Or you could be.
You could be. You can do both.
If that's what you're into.
Yeah. If you're still into that. All right, next week, Black Frog Brewery is on the program with us. I'm excited about that one. Should be a good show. And I think that's it for me, JP. What do you think? Did I do my job?
I think you did good.
Okay. A scale of 1 to 10 on my performance in today's show. Where did I land? And then I would like you also to do Tasty and Beardy. And yourself.
Good. Oh shit. Okay. Well, I think you came in about a 7 today.
Okay.
You're a little low. I think you're a little low energy. I think Tasty. I'm going to give him a 6 today. He was very quiet.
You're generous. I was very quiet.
He was here, right?
I think he's
You're
low
generous.
energy.
You're being very generous.
Hey, welcome, Tasty. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. I think Warren. I'm going to put Warren also at a 6.
Really?
Or maybe a 6.2 because he didn't really contribute a whole lot today either.
Okay, that's the only one I'm gonna grade.
Considering you were at a 7.
I understood. I felt he really contributed to the interview today with Plan Beer Farm Brewery. I would put him. What did you put him at, a 6?
6.
I think he was at least a 6.1.
That's lower than what he actually put me at.
I did put him at 6.2.
He said 6.2.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh.
No,
I'm keeping mine at 6.1.
I think you're a 6.9 now, which is almost the sex number, so that's cool.
I'm going to lower myself to a 5. Then the rest make more sense.
I feel like we've evened it out.
It makes more sense then.
All right.
And yourself, JP, this year.
So I thought I was going to do Bev also. Should
okay,
I just do Bev?
Sure.
Bev was a 4 today.
Okay. Which show is like a 10 for Bev? I'm trying to remember.
Any show she drinks a lot at, which hasn't happened in a long time.
I think her only 10 was a very stripper Christmas.
The Christmas show, yeah.
Right.
Myself, I was easily an 8.
Right.
Easily. It's not a 9.
Bullshit. You're grading on the curve now.
Fuck it.
Right, because you paid attention to how much I contributed during the interview.
I was an 89.
Somebody paid attention.
Right.
Let's just mix the two numbers. 8 plus 9 is 89.
Okay.
All right, out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did it.
Wait.
Which note you're not?
Well, for
The
me...
sex number.
For me, that's right, which I am. Yeah. For me, the exciting part about this is that I just outsourced all of your employee reviews for 2018.
Hell yeah.
So,
okay.
Looks like nobody's getting a raise, and no one was a 10.
I'm an 89 out of 10. I overachieved.
You know what? You missed it by a tenth of a percent.
The high bar.
Right, if we're talking how close you get to 10.
Without me.
So
half of the show wouldn't have happened without you.
Whatever.
Good job, everybody. Good job. Yeah. All right. We will see you next week. Thanks for listening. Here's JP's soothing voice to take you home.
Thank you to our show sponsor, More Beer. You can get absolutely everything you need to make great beer at home by going to morebeer.com. Thanks to Evan from Plan Beer Farm Brewery for sending in 2 great sour beers. Learn more about them at planbeerfarmbrewery.com. Also, thank you to Ting from Eagle Rock Brewing Company to give us the rundown on their recent legal fight. Consider helping them protect other breweries and search Women's Beer Forum on GoFundMe.com. Join JP, Beverly, Terrence, and Taryn for a great show that's all about Disneyland. Go to earsuppodcast.com for whatever that is. Get on Twitter for some good beer insight and homebrew info. Follow Nate Smith at Nathan Homebrew. Mike McDowell at Tasty McD. Warren is stuck over at Another Beardy. JP knows Twitter is dead, and so he's on Instagram at Major Jip, and you can find Bevo with there as well at Beverly Moore. I said it was an 89. I'm more like a 42 right now. Be sure to find the Brew Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
He's an asshole. Justin's a nice guy and winning the race. JP